Welcome to Open Mind Industries Podcast, The Mind Unleashed. Sit back, relax, and unleash your mind. Hey guys, welcome to episode 32. As we always do, let's give a few shout out to our supporters. The first one is going to be Lyft, the ride sharing app. Use our code TMUP for $5 up when you book your first ride with Lyft. Also, please check out Weave Productions. Weave Productions is a locally based production company who does weddings, photos, any special occasion for corporate events, center photography. Use our code OMI and you'll get 20% off when you book your next project with him. Also, if you're looking to get a home in the Orlando area or the Florida area, please check out Angie Connors and she will hook you guys up. Links will be down below. She helped us out with our new home. In this episode, we'll be talking with Maurice Hughes. He is a huge Terminator 2 fan. He's visited all the T2 venues over the past couple of years and knows more about them than we ever do. So this is very a Terminator-oriented podcast. So, as we do, let's start out. Enjoy, sit back, relax, and here we go.
Hello?
Hey man, how are you?
Hey, I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's been a long day here, but it's been alright.
Okay, you tired?
No, a little bit, but I'm ready to do this. I've been waiting for this all day.
I'm ready. Just
Okay.
adjusting my chair, just 1 second.
Same. What the people want.
I'm really curious. It'll be my first podcast.
Like I said, what a pretty much podcast is, it's just a geek out session about a subject. They're really fun.
Yeah.
So
I'll let it surprise me.
no, it's very fun. Like I said, we're gonna be geeking out about T2. So for those listening on the podcast, it's gonna be a very Terminator 2 frenzy. A lot of knowledge lessons, stuff like that. I don't know where to begin. I guess I could start off with, how did you get into T2? I mean, what was you love T2 so much, like, how did you get into it?
That goes way back a long time. I think it's around 1997.
Wow.
I was at the secondary school and they just got the internet over there. It was still the first stages on school, the internet.
Okay.
And I think I saw T2 in 1996.
Okay.
And I got hooked immediately.
I think you were like me, though, because I was the same way.
I first saw T2 and then later on T1. So I saw it in that order.
Yeah.
But I was surfing the internet and I stumbled on an image that I could not place in T2. It was Arnold doing the flip with the shotgun in the Future War.
Okay.
And I could not place that image in the movie I saw that time ago. So I went searching and eventually I came onto the Universal Studios website. And that was my first getting to know T2 3D, and I still didn't realize it was like a theme park attraction.
Yeah.
But when the internet grew and we got the internet at home, I kept on surfing and I got more information. And I must admit, I still didn't realize there were 3 venues of Universal Studios having a theme park attraction. I thought it was only 1.
Yeah, I didn't know that until I started with Universal. I moved here in 2007, so in 2001 I was able to visit the theme park, and I was already a huge fan of T1 and T2. Not as big as you, but I was able to, once I saw it, I really fell in love with it. I didn't know there were 3 attractions. I only knew of the Hollywood attraction. I didn't know about Japan until about a year later.
Well, Hollywood is the most prominent in all the advertisements. Originally, the plan was to get T2 3D in Hollywood first, at the old Conan Theater, but they switched it around. I think the plan was to Florida would have the Jurassic Park ride first, and Hollywood would get T2 3D, and they switched it around. I have been told.
That's what it seems like. It seems like Hollywood got more of the, like, because you showed me some photos, and it seems like they had more of, like, the Terminator Cyberdyne look than we did.
Yeah. even Japan has the best look, if I have to say.
Yeah.
But Hollywood got a more already a more corporate style compared to the one in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
But to get back to the story, I couldn't place that image into the T2 movies or kept surfing.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I found out about the theme parks, and yeah, it was still new. It was unknown to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to see a fan trailer by a Terminator fan who used footage of the T2 3D ride. And then I said, what the heck? I really need to see it. It was footage of the Arnold battling the mini hunters. And so I found a work print of the show online, so I watched the whole work print many times.
Awesome.
And that's I think my real first meeting with T2 3D, seeing it.
What did you take away from the movies? I mean, like when you said, okay, this is like I'm going down the rabbit hole. Like you said, was it T1 or T2 that really brought? I mean, it was probably T2 that brought you into the life of it.
Yeah, T2. It was the first one I saw, and I didn't get to see T1 that quick after it.
Mm-hmm.
It was still the time of the internet was not just getting there for us, and we still had to see videos on the videotape, the VHS tape.
Yeah, same.
So we had to buy them in the stores, and it was really hard to find T1 on the tape for me then. So I first saw T2 on the BBC and the British channel.
Yeah.
And they even they broadcasted a different cut, a special UK cut that removed a lot of violence.
Yeah.
And added some deleted scenes.
Yeah, because here in the States we had the extended cut edition. And then when the new T2 version came out in the theaters recently, they just kept the original version. I guess he just did a couple updates, and I'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah, they did. There were some updates, but you're talking about the 3D version now, and that was only the theatrical cut.
Yeah.
But my first T2 viewing was some special BBC cut. So when I saw T2 for the first time on Dutch television, it was the theatrical cut, and it was fun. I'm missing scenes. I'm seeing new scenes, the ones that with all the violence, but I was also missing scenes from the special edition. So that's how I got into the whole Terminator 2 and the deleted scenes.
Rabbit hole, pretty much. Yeah.
Yes. And yeah, that's how I got to learn Terminator.
So like it was a special part into your heart, and then when you saw finally like, oh my God, there's a T2 attraction, you know. Obviously, since we've been talking and I got to meet Maurice, guys, he's deeply into it. He'll school you. He goes down a rabbit hole that no one's ever seen. So you look for every minor thing that may have happened. I mean, what was that like when you found your first Easter egg?
I'm trying to remember what my first Easter egg was. There have been so many. There are still things left unanswered that I'm still looking for. Like in the Q area video, who played the La Bamba song, or who played that character?
I know a friend of mine. They know that they knew the lyrics. I guess it was some band. Because this was years ago, guys. I worked for Terminator for about 8 years, so hearing the song consistently from CDYN, and that was the channel that they used. I forget, somebody told me what the band was, but I can't remember place the name. They said it was a band. It was a popular band from I think a movie or a clip or a commercial that they had. From what I have no idea.
Okay, I have no idea. I'm still searching for that answer, but also like. There's an actress that's playing a character named Robin Sandler in the Q video, and she's still unknown to me. Most characters I can find out who they were played with, but this one is still a really hard one to find.
Mm-hmm.
I even asked Gary Goddard and Adam Bazark, and they couldn't even tell me.
No, because I think when they made it, they didn't think it would be as serious. Like I said, for you, you kind of want to know. The minute you went down the rabbit hole, you really wanted to find out like who was character and why did the story begin, and who are these people and where do they tie into the story?
Because this feels like another chapter to the Terminator saga, and especially with the Kimberly character, she is the newcomer of in the Terminator universe from this show. She doesn't appear in any of the movies, so.
No,
what
we
is her
see nothing of
background?
her.
Yeah. So I was really interested in what is her background and what's her meaning in the story and
Mm-hmm. I
how does she
remember
fit in.
a few months ago, before we even were told T2 was closing, Maurice hit me up through a mutual friend and through Facebook, and then he said, "Hey, would you know of anything?" And I saw a friend of mine, Dakota, and he said, "Would you know about the Kimberly character at all? I don't mean to intrude, or if you can give me any insight." So I started going through my old work manual, and I was like, "Well, this is what we know of her." And we knew a few actresses that play the character, and we asked them too, and we're like, "What do you know about her?" And from what they told us through our training, and it hasn't changed much over at Universal, was
Mhm.
she was a powerhouse from the 90s. She is, it changed from a person that runs the media department to an R&D kind of R&D manager of Cyberdyne. She overlooks it, oversees it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was kind of hard to kind of like place where this character was, because people, it's funny when you go into the venue, for those who've never seen it, we would consistently get stopped. People would ask us, is she really like that? Is she really talk like that? And we're like, what do you think? I said, I would joke sometimes. I would say, no, she's far worse. She doesn't give us bathroom breaks or something like that. Cause you have fun. And people are like, she's really that? I'm like, oh yeah, she's that strict. But when you see the actors backstage or whatever, they're actually really nice.
Yeah, if I don't know if people know, but the Japanese version has more like a counterpart of the Kimberly Duncan,
Mm-hmm.
which is a Japanese woman called Reika Ayanokoji,
Mm-hmm.
and she has a lot of backstory, not completely in the Terminator show, but she appears in a lot of promotions in a lot of the other shows.
Mm-hmm.
She has done some monster musical with the Beetlejuice characters.
Mm-hmm.
She has appeared. Panasonic was the first sponsor of T2 3D in Japan for the first 10 years.
Oh wow.
She has appeared a lot in videos by Panasonic, even like more what is she doing all day in a fictional life.
Uh-huh.
She has even got an online web novel on the Japanese Universal Studio site. She has a lot more background than the American Kimberly Duncan.
Mm-hmm. I think that they really didn't, when they brought it here, when James Cameron said finally, okay, we're going to do a T2 attraction, I don't think they really thought, they thought it out, but they were like, okay, nobody's really going to, dig in as deep as they would,
Yeah.
And, it's like when I first started, I started back in, I got hired for Universal back in 07 in April, and then I didn't go over to Terminator when I finally got to go rescue over there. And for those who don't know what that is, it means when your venue or the venue you work for at Universal does not need you, they send you to another venue that's in need if somebody calls in, what have you. And I remember I had to get rescued over there, and I kind of the song was in my head for some reason, and I kind of got like super excited and happy for some reason. And I went over, but yeah, it seems like they didn't think out to flesh out the character. And I walked over there and I started meeting people, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. Who's this person? Because all you know about is there's Sarah and John Connor and the T-1000. They're the only they're the only ones. But Kimberly was in like a league of her own, because it was like, okay, we're in a Cyberdyne facility we rebuilt, But sitting down and trying to find her character, they didn't really think that out so well. I mean, they were like, okay, this person, no one's going to wonder, no one's going to ask, because she's only a vital part for only about a few minutes of the show.
Yeah, she's only there to introduce Cyberdyne and to have that mock-up pre-show video.
Mm-hmm.
And then, she's quickly killed by the T-1000.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, everything that I found with you and found myself when I was working there, I talked to even a lot of the actors that played the character, and I said, when you got hired, like, what did they tell you? How was the audition process? And they said, no, they wanted her to be kind of a character that was kind of spunky, and a lot of actresses that played her in different ways. They played her more with energy, enthusiasticness, and some played her very bitchy. I mean, that was the thing. It was like, I'm this character. I can literally tell you to sit in your damn seat. And a lot of there was a lot of times a lot of guests would not sit down, and she's like, we would be telling them, hey, you need to sit down. We got to get the show started. And they'd be like, no, I'm fine. I want the middle seat, And Kimberly would just break character and just boom, attack them. And I'm like, whoa.
She would put them in the place. Yeah.
Oh yeah, she would. I mean, and I was like, I'd walk backstage. I'm like, that you were awesome. She's like, what are they gonna say? I was like, I'm Kimberly. I can, I'm a powerhouse, and it was kind of cool that they could play that character to the guest. I
Yeah.
think some guests would also want to make her do that, you know.
Well,
Which is
one thing is clear: don't mess with Kimberly.
no.
You don't want to do that.
No. And there's quite a few actresses that I still know today that were when they weren't in a good mood, and if it was a daily time, yeah, they could be very bitchy.
Yeah.
Even to us, because we go out and she would say something to us quietly, and she's like, so and so is making enough noise, so we're gonna stop that right now. I remember one day, and this is a true story. I won't name the actor, but somebody wasn't doing something, and I guess decided to hold the show up. So she decided to sit on the stage, sat down on the stage, and told the gentleman, if you don't get up or you don't follow directions, we're not starting the show. And she literally sat on the stage, and we didn't start the show for about 2 minutes. And
Nice.
It made us delayed, but it was like, okay, we had another show in 30 minutes we got to go do. But she put that guy in his place, and I was like, touche.
Yeah.
So, like I said, the character of her, I mean, they really didn't flesh it out well enough, and it's kind of hard to find her backstory. But what we know of it is she's a powerhouse, and like I said, many actresses that played her over the years that I've known play her in different ways. So it's kind of hard to find the right story of what they wanted her to be, but the story that I know is just that she's one of our R&D directors of the Cyberdyne.
Yes, and the main, I think the main difference you can spot in the play of the Kimberly character is when the T-1000 attacks her. Some Kimberlys they shout and like security grab the corners, grab them.
Mm-hmm.
They are more like assertive. They want to attack the corners.
Mm-hmm.
Other Kimberlys play more like they are fearful of the T-1000. Mm-hmm. They have no idea what's going on, and they sit there frightened and waiting to be killed.
Mm-hmm.
Some think that he's part of security. Other think he's perhaps part of the corners. They don't know. So there are really small differences in that part of the show by the different Kimberly actresses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Sarah and John are pretty much. I mean, each character in the show changes differently to the way that they run or the way that they'll react to the pre-cues to the show, and
Mm-hmm.
some of them did look exactly like the character. They play it their own way, but the Kimberly character we've been trying to find out more about, over the time I've got to know you. And there is one scene, I'll let Maurice, he's looking for certain things, so if some of you guys can find this scene, I'll let him describe that in just a moment. There's different variations on how Kimberly, as he just described, when the T-1000, Kimberly does die. But I'll let Maurice go into that. The footage you're looking for is an alternate.
There's an alternate, and I think it happens in a few situations, like the Kimberly actress is pregnant, or the crash pad on which she has to dive is being replaced. Mm-hmm. There's a rare variation on the show. Normally, Kimberly is killed by the T-1000, but in certain situations, Kimberly survives. She sees the T-1000 coming on stage, and she screams more like, "I'm not getting paid enough for this," or she runs away from the stage. She survives her T-1000 encounter and lives to tell another day.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like you mentioned, I'm looking for footage from that because it's so rare.
I've tried to describe it to him so many times, and he said the one that when he finally came to Orlando when we were closing on our last day, he said, "Is there any way we can make it happen?" And before he arrived, about a day ahead, it actually happened. And I literally tried pulling my cell phone out. I was like, if I get fired, I get fired. But I was like, and my cell phone video was so bad. I'm like, it was like 2 seconds because I didn't know she was doing it. It was just boom, boom. They would never say, hey, nobody come up and would say, hey, we're not doing this. We're doing alternate. They would say in the beginning of our day, like, hey, the bike is out or an element is out. So the actors will be doing something differently. So we would know to, watch the area where they were. But Kimberly was it's so unscripted to that percent. It's hard to find this footage.
I know.
I feel so bad.
I think I've been looking for at least 2 years for this.
Yeah, and we've really tried finding it for you, but it's like I think a friend of ours, Jeremy, said it's a sad part on our security work because when we told people to put away their cell phone cameras, we were really told to turn the phones off, turn the cameras off, turn the GoPros off. That we were very strict about that. I mean, there were some guests that would get footage, but we couldn't get to them. But it was nothing that Maurice wants. It was like he wants the unicorn that we've been trying to find, but it was so random.
Yeah, I know. It's like the bike having the technical issues and stopping on stage.
Yeah.
These are so random and impossible to predict.
No.
So I'm still searching YouTube almost on a daily basis to see if someone uploads some old recording and which it might happen.
So I'm gonna throw this out there to everybody who's listening or anybody who's a big T2 fan. So if anybody was in the Orlando area, especially Universal, or one of the actresses that may be listening to this or whoever, if you guys may have a footage, it's got to be footage of Kimberly surviving. That would be awesome. Either email it to us. I'll give you the link on where to email it to, and I'll send Maurice's stuff over to him too. So he is really looking for this footage, guys. So if anybody can help, please do so.
I would be very thankful.
Yeah, he's been literally putting out little offers to people, like trinkets, stuff like that. Some really cool stuff that he's literally offered. I saw it on Facebook the other day, and he said, "Hey guys, I'm going to ask again. You know, I have some things here that I'm willing to part with that are collector's items. They're hard to find for this footage," and I thought it was a really cool thing. But the problem is, like, going through YouTube, it's kind of hard to put what the keywords would be. It's like Kimberly surviving. Now nothing pops up. T2 3D Orlando. Okay, things pop up, but it's like bits and pieces of, like, you know, grainy footage or, you know, nothing. And the sad part is, like, for us working there, I feel kind of bad now because we would stop the cameras in the worst, you know, the best spots, you know, the show.
Yeah. Well, it was your job.
Yeah. And that was, I'm not gonna say who the actress was, but there was one actress that if we even let the camera go on for 2 seconds, she would pull open the side door where we were standing during the show and yell at us. And I mean, yell at us. She would, I remember one day, like, I never fight with her, but she literally told me I need to start doing my job better. She goes, because she would literally call us out during the show. She's like, "Security, row 3. You see the light?" And we're like, "Yep, we can't get to him." And, yeah, she would yell a lot. She was a great person, a great actress, but she was very coy. You know, it was her performance.
Well, let's say it's all part of the Kimberly character.
Yeah, very much so.
Yes, Kimberly wants to be in control.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, you know, the Connor stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can add a little fun fact on the Kimberly character. In the original script for T2 3D, they had either a male or a female character. The female was indeed Kimberly Duncan, and the male was to be named Kip Duncan. So
there was a character.
There was, it's like Universal now. For it has become only Kimberly, so Universal has to cast female actresses.
See, that's what I heard. I heard when I think it was a couple years ago, I heard that same thing. I said, "Why aren't there any, like, a Ken Duncan or something like that?" to one of our techs, and he goes, "Unfortunately, there's not enough roles for females in the park, so we need to cast more females."
Yeah, but it's one of the earlier scripts that I have. It's Kip Duncan.
Wow, that's something I did not know. I thought they would have something. But that's what I was told by one of our techs. Like, yeah, because he was working there. He started back there, and I think 91 is when he started with Universal, and he got hired in to do, because he was one of the original operators of T2 3D in Orlando here. And I said, "Hey, you know, I would like to do Ken." Like, I was being serious. Like, I want to audition for Ken Duncan, and he was like, "No." He's like, "Unfortunately, there's not enough roles for the actresses." So that's a really cool Easter egg that I didn't even know.
Yeah, I will send you a screenshot of the script.
That's cool. Like, that's crazy, because I would sit upstairs a lot and talk with the actors, and I'm like, "Why aren't there any, like, male, like, Ken Duncans or something?" And they're like, "Well," and that was kind of the reason why. And that makes tons of sense now.
Yeah, but it's only in one of the first scripts. The script that came after it didn't have the male character. They only said it's Kimberly Duncan. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So they changed it already in the script phase.
That's intriguing.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So, I mean, like, when your first trip came up, you were like, "Hey, I'm going to go finally see T2 3D." When you were a teenager, whenever this, you happened, what was your first big trip when you finally said, "Okay, I'm going to go see this live"?
It was in 2008. We went on the holiday to Florida with my sister and 2 good friends. And I was like, it was my first real big holiday, first time flying in an airplane, first time a big country like America,
Yeah.
continental. So I was like, hey, if we're going there, I want to visit Universal Studios
Why not? That's
for
the
one
best.
day.
Yeah, the best part of it.
Yeah, and I think it was one of the first days of my holiday there, and we went to the park, and I spoke to the Cyberdyne crew in front of the park, and I told them like I came all the way from the Netherlands, wanted to experience this attraction, and there was a manager called Amber, and she was like, hey, I can set up a meeting with the cast.
I think I remember. I got brought in. I was there for a couple months, and then I saw the video. I want to say about 6 months afterwards. They were watching it backstage. Apparently, yeah, somebody pulled it up on they burned it into a DVD because they pulled it from YouTube. I guess this was back when you could be able to rip files from YouTube, and I ended up seeing your video, and I was like, oh, guys, we're on like YouTube. I looked it up because I wanted to find out like from Japan stuff and stuff like that, and that's where I found out.
Yeah, and that was my first meeting with the cast and experienced the show. It was all crazy for me. It was, I think, one of the best days of my life.
Yeah.
Got to see the show.
When you walked in, like, what was your, when you finally saw the building and you're like, oh, this is kind of cool, or, now that you've kind of been to LA, what was your experience with that?
Well, I must admit, I watched the Terminator show a lot on YouTube before even being able to see it in real life. Because before 2008, before I first went, I had never thought I would actually go to the United States and experience the show. So when I walked in, I recognized a lot of things already from YouTube recordings. So I was already a bit spoiled. But it was nice. You got to see little things like when you walk into the entrance of the show in Orlando, you have that red light that goes from left to right, more like reminded me of a kid from the Knight Rider show.
Yeah.
And I never saw that on the YouTube videos, or didn't stand still with it by it. And then you get all the signs and the Q video. It was amazing. The whole atmosphere in the building was like, wow, this is Terminator. You are in Cyberdyne Systems. The teaming is so well done. There are there's something like a radio communication sometimes calling like that person should go to that department. He's called in. Those little things they really make it real.
Yeah, the fun fact about that the old Q video that Maurice was talking about. We were actually, if you look inside of our old panels, I think I still maybe have a copy somewhere, I don't know. But we were told to read off of those sometimes. So, like, it would go off and it would say, Dr. Sniper and Maselli, Dr. Sniper, please report to work and storage,
Yeah.
We would literally have to, when you first started, I mean, you could see the employees were really having fun with it. The lights would, the red lights that Maurice was talking about that are in the ceiling, and they would spin. Because it would say, hey, don't touch that, and all of a sudden somebody, the Q video would happen, and then it would be like a warning, and the lights would spin, and then they would stop, So it was really cool seeing that.
That was really amazing, and especially if you know that they filmed it for each venue, they filmed their own parts.
Yeah.
Hollywood had different parts of those live camera footage than Orlando did have.
Yeah, so, fun fact, I actually met a guy, I met a gentleman about 4 years ago. He came up to me very quietly in the morning. I think it was like 8 in the morning when I had to come into work. And he goes, where's your tie? And I go, pardon? He goes, where's your tie? I went, oh, it's in my locker. We had options to wear the tie or not wear the tie. A lot of us wouldn't wear it because it was a little bit too hot. And it was a little bit distracting for our radio that we had to wear, for the building. And he goes, I'm an old Cyberdyne security officer back from I think he said 96 or 97. Okay. And he ended up pulling out some old photos, and he was like, I'm here with the grandkids. And he goes, and we still had the old Q video at the time, and he goes, I'm in the Q video. I'm the guy with so-and-so. I looked at him carefully, and when we saw him, he literally was the guy in the Q video from back then. I was like, oh my God, that's you. He goes, yeah. That was really cool, like the thing that he kind of whispered in my ear that, where's your tie at? And I was like, I don't have my tie. And I kind of felt like a dick because I was like, oh, okay, what, 'cause we get so many super fans all the time,
Yeah.
That would just, I think Q2's closing down. No, it's not closing down, unfortunately. Oh, is so-and-so working today? And you can't say if they're working or not just for their safety. But, it's having this guy whisper in my ear, where's your tie? And then kind of admitting who he was. It was a really cool, fun fact.
That's really nice.
Yeah. So it's like, it really gives you that, that atmosphere of like, holy crap. Of like, you're walking into Cyber. I mean, the building, over time, it's seen better days, obviously. When you came for your last visit in October of '08,
Yeah.
it was a sad moment when you finally came in. You're like, I was like, I'd like to hear, when you're saying, it opened your eyes. You're like, this is like Cyberdyne. I'm walking in, I'm seeing the show, and it's Cyberdyne.
You're inside Cyberdyne.
Yeah, I mean, like, what was it like when you finally got into pre-show and then you saw the show finally?
Amazing.
Yeah.
It was really amazing to see it in real life too. To see Kimberly upstage doing her part. I think one of the most impressive moments from the show when I first saw it were the T-17 robots when they came up and started firing at those targets, and you see these snippets falling down. That was just amazing.
We get that a lot too, because kids would literally go, oh, they really do shoot, and I went, they do shoot flame, yes, and the targets are actually their own kind of element, yeah. Mm-hmm. I think they would start cheering. They're like, that's the coolest thing ever. I want one. And I'm like, you don't want the price tag that comes along with it.
No, but they are so impressive. They are so huge. They are 8 feet tall.
Yes.
So they're towering above you and firing those big guns, and it's just awesome. You really get, now I'm into the Terminator show. Now I have to look out. There are Terminators around me. More like that kind of feeling. And then when the motorcycle comes on stage, it's really wow. They have a motorcycle.
The bike has plenty of it has plenty of funny stories with it. I mean, when the bike finally came out and you saw Arnold, what was it like? Were you like holy shit, or was it like nostalgia, or how did you feel?
Yeah, what did I feel? Yeah, I must say I was already spoiled by all those YouTube videos, so I knew what was going to happen. But it's still, seeing that bike coming out the first time in real life is just wow. It's a wow factor. You see it coming up, the blanks they are firing, you see them flying around. It's just wow. It's hard to describe.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It's kind of like, we should have told people, I'm like, the one thing that Maurice, when he came back to Orlando when we were closing out, because we didn't know if he was coming or not, and it was a large struggle, but the one thing we always get with that bike is the bike in or out. And a lot of the times the employee, the security operators that we played, we had to always say, we'd had jokes through when the bike was out, because it would be out for maintenance, because the bike was very hard to keep maintenance. It didn't want to keep going. There was a lot of, if you weighed too much on the bike, apparently it wouldn't go out. There's sensors on the bike. If they let go of the handlebars too soon, it would stop. There's so many different things. But even Maurice, when he was here, was like, is the bike in or out? And I was like, it's been out for the last 3 days. And I was like, thank God they got it back in. For a closing procedure, this is a fun fact, it literally cost Universal about, I want to say $7,000 to keep it in show for the last month. Yeah.
Just for repairs and maintenance?
Just for repairs, yeah. I remember like when I was talking with you, and you were like, I think I'm coming. I don't know if I'm coming. Like, and then we were like talking back and forth because we've such a time difference from where I am in Orlando and from where you are. So I was getting text, early morning here, which doesn't bother me at all. So I'm like, I wake up and I'm like, oh cool, I got a text, and you're like, I'm coming. Is everything in show? And I'm like, I'm like, this isn't working, or that's not working, and the bike is out, but it's in, and a lot of, and that was the thing, when the bike finally comes out, that was a big experience for everybody. No one ever expected the live show of it. Yes, it's 3D, but when you finally see the live aspect of it, it blows your freaking mind.
It's true. You can watch it so many times on YouTube, like I did, but when you see it the first time in real life, it's so different. It's so much more like you're in the show. You're surrounded by the Terminators. The bike is in front of you. When the aerial hunter killers fly, there are fans blowing wind from the ceiling. It's so different that added aspect of seeing in real life and not on video.
Yeah, because the
It
thing
makes
is,
so big difference.
yeah, exactly. And people are like, oh, I don't want to see a show. And it's like, no, it's more than a show. It's not just 3D, but there's real people in it. And people, to this day, they still don't, we've had fans come up to us and we had people who say, they'd walk up, during midday. It's a long day at Universal, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And they would go, oh, has this changed since '90? And you're like, it has. There's new things they've added, or new projectors that they've added, or something like that. I don't know. Is the bike in or the bike out? This work or this doesn't work. And the show had failures times, and we've had times where the bike would stop. And this is a fun fact, Maurice, too. And the bike would just stop, and people were just sitting there, and they're like, "Why did the show stop?" Well, do you see the bike in the middle of the stage? We need to get the bike off the stage to rerun the show. And it would be up for the rest of the day because the sensor, it got stuck on the sensor and the techs didn't want to fix it or something like that.
The worst thing is, it once happened to me while I was visiting in 2014 at the bike stop, and I didn't notice it because, like you mentioned, Jeremy, he took me apart so I could watch the T17 robots from the side. So
yeah.
I was not sitting on the chairs in the audience. I was standing at the side. And I could, I was allowed to make photographs of the T70 unit. And while I was only focusing on those robots, the bike stopped and I missed it. Suddenly, Jeremy was shouting, "Everybody has to get out!"
It's nothing pretty, yeah. Yeah, it's nothing pretty.
I missed it.
Yeah, I mean, we've got plenty of video of that. I'm pretty sure we got plenty of video of that from one of our cameras or something. But yeah, when the bike stopped, and everybody just looks at you and they're like. And the lights would come up, the emergency spiel would come out, the spiel, hey folks, hey, come on out, we'll set you up for the next show. And the spiel was so broken, it would tell guests to immediately re-enter. And I think for years since I've worked there, we're like, no, you can't, re-come in, you need to wait a minute, give us a few minutes, because the bike might take, it might take 10 minutes, it might take 20 minutes, depending on, because the old system of how the bike worked, the techs literally had to push it up the ramp. There was a ramp that they had, the line had to push it up, and they had to reset everything. And sometimes the bike wouldn't go. And I remember, like when you finally came your first time, they ended up spending, I think it was $86,000 for this, what they call a zipper, which the bike comes down, so they can actually move the bike off faster. And I was like, whoa, so the bike now can go. I was like, I want to see it work. And they're like, no, we don't want to make it work because it stopping that bike, it takes a lot out of the techs and a lot out of us to reset the building. But yeah, it cost, just for to get that bike off the stage quickly, it cost them $86,000 for this one part, like this one element that they had to put in.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
But the thing for the next audience that's really is coming to my mind right now is when they enter the show and the bike stopped the previous show and they couldn't fix it in time, they get to see the Terminator ran onto the stage. You can hear the bike sounds, but there is no bike.
No, and
the Terminator. He's standing there. He shoots the T-1000. John Connor jumps behind him because he cannot jump on the motorcycle, and then they run on stage again, and on screen there's suddenly a motorcycle. So first time visitors, they really have something like, what the heck is going on?
Well, when you finally first saw that, like, what was your thing? Like, you're like, was that like, oh my god, there's an Easter egg I didn't know about, or?
I didn't see it in real life. I must admit, I saw that one on YouTube too. Like I mentioned, I missed the part of the bike going, having technical difficulties, and then we had to go to some other attraction because they didn't know how much time it could take for the bike to be up. No, and they couldn't tell if the next show was even.
We had like I said, the zipper that they had to install, guys. It literally that helped them get the bike up a little bit quicker, because there would be times where the bike would literally go into stage one where he comes out of the screen and then go down. And talking to a lot of the Terminators that are good friends of mine, because I've actually got to ride the bike with one of the actors, and I said, they're like, hang on. And I'm like, what do you mean hang on? Like, the bike, everybody was concerned. They're like, it really does go fast. Hang on. When you go down, when the Terminator revs, he revs the thing, he does the big rev. When it goes down, it literally picks you up off your butt. Some of the big, guys that do it, they literally, I'm not going to name names, unfortunately, but that they would hop off the seat, literally. Dude, they're big guys. And the skinnier guys that would do Terminator young guys would do it too. They were literally hanging out for dear life because the bike it was that fast.
But you get a very unique experience being able to ride on a motorcycle.
And the problem is it would stop. There was two parts that it would stop. It would start going down the hill, and then it would stop midway before they call it the lean, and it would spin, and it would either stop there or it would stop at lean where John Connor would hop on, and the bike wouldn't just go. I guess because there was a sensor that always would happen. It would say, "Hey, no one's on the bike" or something like that. It would just fault out. And that part on the floor, they actually had to take that out and then put a new system in to get it up the stage faster. That sometimes would take 30 minutes to 40 minutes just for techs to get on scene to take it off. It was cool seeing it up close because it's an actual bike.
Yeah, but what I've heard, it's an actual bike, and they changed some parts to have it ride on the track.
Yeah.
But it's a real Harley Davidson.
Harley Davidson, yeah. The tire was like I went to go one day. They had it on the stage and it was just sitting there, and I actually was like sitting on it. And I was feeling the tire because we're all sitting on the stage talking, we're all waiting for the next, telling guests we're sorry and stuff like that. And I'm spinning the front tire and I'm going, wait a minute. I'm like, that's a real tire. And they went, it's a real bike, dude. Yes, there's real air in the tire. I went, oh, I didn't know. Because I don't sit around the bike a lot, so I didn't know that for a couple of years.
Yeah, but like you mentioned before, when we started this conversation, there are still so many little things that have or have not been discovered yet by people like you and me. And you worked there, and I'm this super fan, and we're still discovering things on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. So it's really nice, that kind of stuff.
What was since you've seen the Orlando version and you've kind of had more of a better experience with it, and you were here for our last show, what was your better takeaway from the Japan version and the Hollywood version?
Japan has the best theming.
Okay.
That's really a corporate Cyberdyne building with those sci-fi elements into it. They have elevators there that even have the Cyberdyne logo on it. Real nice lighting. But the thing, that is with the Japanese show is that it's completely Japanese. It's because I already knew the show by heart and I knew what was going on. But I went there with my wife. She had not seen that show before. Mm-hmm. She didn't even know what was going on. Everything is Japanese.
Yeah.
The voiceovers are Japanese, and that was really hard to follow for her. So, and the thing I also disliked in the show in Japan was like the gunfire. Orlando uses props of blanks, sorry, but Japan it's on the soundtrack. It's just a sound that they're playing when he's firing the gun, so it feels really fake.
Yeah, one of the actors that I'm good friends with now, he actually was over in Japan for about a year because he had to help train new performers as the Terminator, and I got to see video of it. I found it on YouTube, and I said, "Oh my God, was that you?" And he said, "That's me." He goes, "I literally trained a few Terminators from there." And I know one of the John Connors too because one of my good friends I'll be doing a podcast with soon, he was actually a John Connor there. For a couple of years. But yeah, he was explaining like how the gun was all rubber and there's only sound effects. They couldn't use actual blanks.
Yeah. It's just, it takes you out of the show, I must say.
Yeah.
But when you see it happen, you think this is so fake. Mm. But yeah, and when comparing it to Hollywood, I must admit I've never seen the show because when I visited in 2009, they just closed it for Halloween preparations for some kind of Rocky Horror Picture show there. Hmm. But I've been into the venue by an employee. I was led by an employee into the venue, and they showed me a lot of things. The most positive things I've heard from Hollywood is the sound. It has a really explosive sound especially compared to Orlando.
Yeah, it's what we heard.
Very aggressive. Very more like explosions are way bigger and. That's what I hear about Hollywood. And what I really like about the theming of Hollywood, and Japan has it also, but of course in Japanese language, are the posters in the queue area. Whereas Orlando has those more, like I call them, those generic Cyberdyne posters.
Very much so. Yeah, they're very generic.
They have like, I think 16 or 18 or a lot of Cyberdyne posters, but it's just a poster with a Cyberdyne logo.
Yeah, it didn't really feel.
In the bottom of.
Yeah, it didn't feel like corporate-y. It didn't feel like Cyberdyne or Terminator related.
You can place it like into the Transformers attraction and just place some other logo on it.
That's a good reference, yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And Hollywood and Japan too, but Hollywood has all the posters. Japan has only a few of them. They have these really Terminator themed posters. Like they have one poster for the T-17 unit, a poster for the Skynet, a poster for the T-1000, the magnetic polyalloy abilities. And there's a really more like parodies, mock-up posters of Terminator stuff, and these are really nice. I must compliment Hollywood on that one.
Yeah, I don't know why Universal Orlando didn't really go into. I think it was just like you said, it was the first. They kind of switched around. Orlando happened first, unfortunately, and then Hollywood. And maybe because they learned their lesson of like, okay, we're really gonna make it Cyberdyne related, instead of like a blank office building kind of thing.
Yeah, they were designed after Orlando had the show. Because Orlando had started the show in '96, Hollywood in '99, so there's a 3-year gap in between that, and they could take the best things from Orlando and use that in Hollywood and add some other things that didn't work or perhaps were boring. They could reinvent it.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of sad. I mean, like people would walk into our and like, this is it. And I'm like, yeah, kind of. There's not much really to see. The card readers kind of didn't work, and the card reader. You asked me previously because some props went on sale at Universal, and we were talking on Facebook and everything, and everybody was like, "Hey, did these actually work?" And I'm like, "At one time, Nick, one of them were actually plugged in, where it actually lit up, and it said, swipe your ID and stuff like that, and it would go red or it would go green." And then I don't remember when they unplugged them or when it stopped working exactly, but one of them did work, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But that was like probably like we had the CDYN, the audio, but the queue was just set up for people because apparently it was super busy when they opened it.
Oh yeah, Orlando has an outside queue, and how many times was that outside queue used the last years? Not much, I think.
Not much at all. I mean, the time that we would open it. And this is a fun fact because I worked there. It would only be during spring break and maybe for about an hour. We were able to get the queue down quite a bit because we had certain procedures of like, okay, Terminator would run every 30 minutes on standard. On a lazy day, it would be every 45 minutes per show. And then on a busy day, such as a peak, spring break or a holiday, they would run every 20 minutes. So it's about 10 minutes each show. And it was like boom, 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 boom. So we would never really use it. Our last couple of days, I mean, before it was hard to get people into the venue prior to when it was closing because we were like, people thought it was a joke. We're like, no, you want to go see T2 now because it's closing today. People had no idea it was closing.
Yeah, but I can tell that because was only announced 1 month ahead.
Yeah,
the show was closing.
We got told...
That was only on the official site. There was no big press release or something.
No.
Just one small part. I think it was September 7th, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Terminator 2 will close in 1 month.
It was so random, and when Hollywood got their closure, it was it was a good month to 2 months out that they knew.
I think it was in September that they announced it. September, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Hollywood closed in December 31st. So there were some good months between it.
Yeah, they had They had a long time. We didn't really know when we were closing.
You only had a month.
We only had a month, and I remember hearing it from the actors in that because I was sick. Unfortunately, I couldn't go to work the day ahead. And I got a call from a close friend during the nighttime, and he said, "Hey," he goes, "Did you know about a meeting that's going on tonight?" I said, "No." I said, "No one's called me. I called in. I wasn't really feeling like food poisoning." And I said, I couldn't go in. I was literally laying on the couch. And he goes, you might want to answer your phone. Somebody's trying to get a hold of you. So he texted me privately. And he goes, we just had a meeting. And everybody's there. The actors are over in the theater right now. We're over in another theater talking. And we've just been told Terminator is shutting down for good. Now, previously, guys, I saw engineers back behind Terminator taking laser measurements, stuff like that. And one of the guys had to be like about 23, 24. So I knew something was going on. We had a lot of engineers taking notes on the building and stuff like that. We know they walk in and you think nothing of it. But I finally stopped one guy and said, "Hey man, so what's going on? Like, I know we're doing something with, I knew, something was going on."
Yeah.
And I
Putting
said,
one and one together.
yeah, I knew. And I said, he said, "What's going on?" He goes, "Well, because previous to this, guys, we were supposed to be Terminator Genesis when Genesis came out. And I've got plenty to talk about that. But he goes, you are closing. I don't know when, but you are. So the closing for us was, it was scary because I felt bad more for the actors and performers who are contracted, because they were there for years and they were told, good luck, your contracts are now null and void, So a lot of actors,
was very hard for them.
Yeah, a lot of them were in tears because it was like their life was with that venue and stuff like that. But previously, about a few months, it was about 6 months prior or 7 months prior, and I remember texting a friend of mine, Dakota, because I said, "Oh my, that I walked in one day and the audio changed." They pulled it. I saw Genesis, I think, twice. I saw it with some friends. I saw it by myself, and I saw it with a friend of mine, Dakota, who I should have on the podcast shortly too. But they started doing the Genesis update, and I was like, we walked in on a meeting. They had all the engineers there previously. I don't care if anybody knows because it's all null and void. But we walked in, and all the engineers kind of looked back at us, and I was cleaning the building. I had to wipe down rails and stuff like that. And they go, "You didn't hear a damn thing." And I went, "Nope, I didn't hear a thing." But what they were doing is they were planning on doing a big update for Terminator Genesis. They were planning on putting in new projectors, new HD projectors, new seats, everything. I mean, they were measuring robots. They were measuring. So what they were planning on doing was a big, huge update, which was quite a few, I would say, $1 million. And I think it would probably would have took about 3 months to do the overhaul. But what happened was they changed our pre-show. They put in new projectors and stuff like that in the pre-show, and that was previous.
The pre-show change was, if I remember correctly, November 2015.
Yeah.
Which we're talking about right now.
Yeah, they were moving it, and then they finally added some Genesis clips because I was loading a show and I had to go put it what they call a count, and when you do the laser, when Maurice didn't know, there were actually some. Everybody asked me, how do they know how many are in the building? Inside the door, when people would walk in, there was a laser scanner on both sides of the doors that when you walked past it, it would trip the laser and it would count, a body or whatever. If you were a big person or you traveled in a wheelchair or what have you, it would count you as 2 people. So we'd had to make, do the math element. And when you walked out, vice versa, it would count down. So we had about 699 seats. We actually had to count all the seats because apparently the counter was off a big time. We were getting weird show counts. Ended up being full shows, and the counter only had 300 people and said the thing. We're like, no, that's not right. So that was screwing us up. But yeah, I was sitting there writing on a show, and all of a sudden I heard Genesis. Whoa, whoa. So I texted a friend of mine in Dakota immediately. I was like, we just got Genesis, and he was freaking out. I mean, he ran to work the next day. He was clocking in. He had tears coming out of his eyes. He's like, it's true, it's happening. And unfortunately, I did see the Q video for, I want to say about only a good day. It was not public. They literally turned it off. We were Genesis for, I want to say about 24 hours. And then they were like, somebody in legal did not get the correct paperwork, or some of the producers on the movie did not like it. So they said no. So we lost all the budget for the update, the 3D. Towards the ending of the days, it sucked because guests were complaining every day. The 3D sucks. The 3D sucks. The 3D sucks. And I knew something was up because before you came for our closing, when you finally found out, we had a lot of our engineers come in who do the 3D. They were debating because we had to getting to Japan film, a part of Japan's film. And I'll go into that in a little bit. And he's putting the 3D glasses on. He's watching the show with the guests, and he goes, "That's horrible. That's bad. That's this." And we're like, we're telling you it's bad. He's like, "I know it's bad." He's like, "The problem is we need to update the polarization. We need to get new projectors, and we need to update the film. There is no digital copy." And I go, "How much is all that going to cost?" He went, "Just to update the film is like, I think he said $1 million by itself, just to digitally convert it and did it, all that. That's $1 million by itself. The projectors were a bit up there." He goes, "For the full update, about $5 million. They're not going to do it." And they came in like 5 times that month, and that's when I knew the engineers were like, "Okay, we're not going to sink any more money into this." So what they had, the ending of the budget, that all went to the bike and to keep the show actually functioning for the last couple days. Because that bike, we had 24-hour techs backstage working on the bike. They were literally underneath the tech bay fixing the bike every show. Because it was like, it was leaking. The robots were leaking. They were leaking hydraulic fluid. It was insane.
Do you? I don't know if you can talk about it, but do you know what they had in mind for the changes related to Genesis?
Because from what I saw from the Q video, the Q video was a little bit longer, but I only saw about 5 minutes of the Q video, and I can't really recall too much of it. But Genesis, Terminator.
I think you're talking about the pre-show video. The Q video has only become that rotating Cyberdyne logo.
Well, when I went in, somebody went to go update it, because first of all, when we got updated, they went to, instead of the huge tube TVs, guys, they went into an LCD mode because we got sponsored by Sharp Aquas years ago, and they started updating all the video and all the video cards inside one of our panels, and then somebody went in, I guess one of our designers went in, made a new logo, and really cool logo, and the audio sounded like more of an upbeat kind of like a demonstration kind of sound. It wasn't that CDYN Q audio that you were used to. It was more. I actually have it on my podcast previously. If you guys want to listen to it, I almost got caught. I did get caught with YouTube. The audio software caught it and it was like, "Hey, copyright infringement." I'm like, "No, it's not, because it doesn't belong to anybody. They built it." But from what I know, it was Genesis. I only saw about 5 minutes of it. I can't really recall it, but it was more of the logo was designed by a gentleman in Universal, and that was already previous. And then they added a Q video, so the logo would keep spinning, but they had to pull the cube immediately because somebody in legal said, "Oh no, we don't have the rights to use that yet. Can't use it." Genesis in pre-show, all they had to do was pull out the 2-second clip that they had. They just go into the computer and go, "We don't need that anymore."
Yeah, they updated the pre-show video with some new scenes. I think the most famous one is the Shaquille O'Neal basketball video being replaced by some football guy taking a penalty.
Yeah.
But they added also some special effects.
And the way that they changed the show, and that's the one thing I kind of noticed, because Kimberly started talking differently too. I saw
Kimberly has a different role. He's now in the Cyberdyne Expo.
Yeah, and I walked in the one day and I was walking to work. I'm like, this all sounded, and Dakota was literally, I won't say in tears. He was in tears of joy. He was really in love with it, and he was like, "This is really cool." There's hope for Terminator.
I remember it. He messaged me on Facebook. They have a new pre-show.
Yeah.
He sent me a video from some site. It was really nice.
Yeah, and it was like it brought home to the Terminator community that, hey man, we're gonna be here for a little bit longer, because we heard every day that, hey, it's Terminator's last day. It's Terminator's last day. It's on its last leg.
But that rumor has been going on for several years.
Yeah,
and no one
could work out front, because when we close the doors, for the last show, people would try to sneak in, and they're like, so, and I think it was, I called them rumor starters, people that are annual pass holders with Universal. They would just want to start a rumor just to start a rumor. So, hey, I heard Terminator's closing down, and you're like, no, I didn't hear anything about that. Yeah, I don't know who you talked to, but they're like, no, I talked to so and so and creative, and I'm like, no, that person doesn't exist. So you knew, yeah.
I have heard stories that the movies, especially Terminator Genesis, prolonged T2-3D's life at Orlando. I've heard things they wanted to close it many times before, and every time a movie came out, it prolonged its life.
The Chronicles too. The Chronicles. We were all kind of big fans of the Chronicles, and I knew after season 2 it was like it was going down no box. Just known for that. So I was like, oh man. But I know when Salvation came out, Salvation extended our life too a little bit, and people were like, "Oh, that's pretty cool," But Genesis was like, "Oh, this is gonna be cool," And it was really cool because they updated. Well, I loved when I walked into the theater and I finally heard the new audio. It sounded so much better.
The humming sound in the Q area.
Yeah, and the Q area sounded okay to me. It sounded more of a business, an expo kind of. You're about to walk into something you've never seen before or something like that. Because, like I said, our queue was very bland, and that's why I asked you about what venue worked best for you, and you said Japan was really good and Hollywood was very good with their posters, and we just I don't know why they kind of slumped with that, you know?
I have no idea either, but I can imagine because of the pressure they had to get the attraction finished in time, and with even the things like it was first to be an attraction at Hollywood, and then they switched it to Orlando. I, I think they really had some pressure. I've heard stories from Gary Goddard that the Universal executives they were really thinking this is going to be a failure. T2 will not be a good attraction. They even were thinking of canceling it. They even had to come up with other designs. I know one of the alternatives was to create a roller coaster because they were still not convinced about this.
Yeah, a
show.
live stunt show, yeah, because Universal
Live
was,
stunt
at the
show,
time was only, I
yeah.
think they were only doing Waterworld, and I think this was the second one.
And they were really concerned about the 3D screens because they have 3 very large 3D screens, and
those were
didn't,
very expensive. When you
yeah,
finally saw the show, they actually ended up using secondhand screens. They weren't actual the real screens. They were knockoffs.
But keep in mind that when they designed it, they even had doubts if the 3D would work from all angles. So I've heard stories that they would they would take those higher ups, they would put them in something like a car or something they can move around. They put on the 3D glasses, and while they were watching the show, the people who were creating it were pushing the car so they could see it from all angles on the screen, and then they were convinced like this is actually going to work.
Yeah. Oh, it's a prototype, and that's what I kind of heard too. That they were really taking something out of the playbook that they didn't even know what the heck they were doing.
Yeah.
So large, we didn't even know.
If you watch the documentary that's on the Terminator 3 Ultimate Edition DVD about the show, you can see even live elements that are not in the actual show.
No.
There's a real dirt bike jumping
125
around.
that they ended up using for mock-up.
Yeah, and there's a T1000 when he's shot, some cable really pulls him away out of from the stage. There are people falling on crash pads from certain heights. There are really some alternative ideas that you can see in the documentary.
Yeah, it was hard when you see in the show because it's like, and I was talking to the actors when they had to train and stuff like that. A lot of them were a little bit too fast and a little bit too slow for the show. Some of the young guys, I remember one guy ended up hurting himself because the pants. They only get, I think, 1 pair of pants per week, so they have to break them in. And if you're a Cast A Terminator, you get 2 pairs of pants or 3 pairs of pants per week, so your pants are kind of broken in. I didn't realize that the pants actually were a hindrance to their legs because it's hard to run in them. Because I was talking to one of our Cast A actors, and I said, "How many pair of pants do you have?" And he said, "I have 3 pairs of pants because I'm full time." He goes, one of the guys ended up banging his knee against the stage because there's certain steps that they have to hit. And for years and years, I mean, they have to climb up a stage, and they only have like about an inch to put their foot on, and then hop up on the stage with a laser gun. And you're like, one day I tried doing it. I was like, and I'm disabled, so I'm like, let me see if I can kind of, And the actors are watching me and are telling me where to grab onto the thing where they do it. That's no feat to do that. There were guys that did that for 20 plus years. And I was pretty shocked that they had to get the timing and elements down just right.
Yeah, but it's a lot of timing. Not only the movements and the jumping and the running around, but also the movement of the mouth to get it in sync with the dialogue.
A lot of the fun things. Fun fact: one of the guys never said "Come with me if you want to live." He would say "caw caw," and I'm like, "What?" So it was stuff you heard back then. He's because one of the John Connors thought the he goes, "Did you say caw?" He goes, "Yeah, I said caw."
So that's a good one.
So that's a crazy thing that they would do. So they would get the lip syncing just right, but sometimes they had enough room where they could have play around on a bike and they would just do certain things. You're like, what did you say?
Well, yeah, you have to make your own work really enjoyable.
You do, because some of the Sarah Connors were super cool. They would run past you, and I had a fun story. I won't name the actress, unfortunately, because I want to make sure everybody's protected. But she would literally run up to us and point finger point at us. She'd be like, come a little closer so we can act like we're working together. So we would kind of like, you'd see her like, security, stop her, and she'd be like looking at her. She's like, I'm watching you. I'm always watching you. Because John Connor would rappel right where we were usually standing, and we'd have to protect them from where a guest would run out, because guests would get up consistently. And the only part that they would do that would be when the guns would go off, the blanks, but it was so loud for some kids, or a little bit too loud for others, so they'd have to get up immediately. But you had to, hold the guest for a minute so the actors could clear. A lot of the time, I would have to run down and stop guests from walking out of the row because John Connor was trying to rappel down. And I remember one of the times I looked up because I knew who the actor was, and I had to stop the lady. And he literally, I looked up at him. I said, just come down. Just come, I'll stop her. You come down. He ends up like landing on my shoulders on purpose. He just, I'm like, do you mind getting off, Patrick? And he was just like, hi, Ollie. Some days if it was your birthday or whatever, the actors knew you. They would run up to you and high five you, or, just some weird stuff. Because I remember one of our actors would come up and he would actually shake our shoulders. He'd grab us and he'd shake them because he was like, she's like, John, don't let him see you. And John would come up and he would tell us to stop, He would really get into the character. It was really fun to play with the actors that way. But getting their timing down was impeccable for them. A lot of the young guys would do it. And the older veterans, you could tell that they were having a blast doing it.
Yeah, but I have all the respect for the actors. If you've seen the show, it's very dark.
Yes.
And most of the actors wear glasses. There is Sarah, the T-1000, that's the Terminator. I think only John is not.
John's the only one, and what I've heard from that, the T-1000 doesn't really see anything because I've actually worn the helmet and the glasses. He depends a lot on the sound audio. Because one day the sound was incorrect. I guess we installed new speakers for our new Genesis show, and apparently when they uploaded the new audio clips to the SD card, the speakers couldn't handle it, and I guess a couple of them blew, so the cones in the speakers weren't sound. It sounded really muffled. If you were there, you would have been like, ugh, that's gross. It really sounded bad. We couldn't really do the show. And the T-1000 said, I can't hear. I don't know where I need to be. I know where I need to be on stage, but I can't tell where I'm at because I can't really see anything. His depth perception is so bad because of all the darkness and the lights. The lights, if they were in a bad, if they weren't programmed correctly, which sometimes they weren't because they're putting new lights in every night. He's more dependent on cue audio and then lighting is what he can only see. So he would know that would be where he would be. And the same would go for I asked one of the Terminators. I asked to wear his glasses too. I said, how do you know where to go? And he's like, well, I push my glasses down just a little bit, and I can kind of see, But I didn't know the show was more dependent on light and audio. When I talked to a lot of the actors, I said, how do you know kind of where you're at? And they said, well, the lights help. The light, I can see with the light, but the audio helps a lot, So they were really dependent on us if somebody got in the way. But John, when Sarah and John would come off stage, John was the blocker. He was the person that would he would kick people's feet out of the way, and there were a lot of times he would throw bags at people's laps because people would stick their bags out in the aisle that he had to run through. And I remember one day I felt so bad, the guy literally, I told the gentleman, I said, I need you to put your feet in. And the guy was like, what are you trying to say, kid? I was like, there's an actor coming your way. And John had to literally jump over the guy's feet, and I had to stop Sarah, unfortunately, to protect her because I don't want her falling over. She's carrying a live prop, So she was dependent on us to make sure she was okay. But there was a lot of bad people that they didn't understand that live element of it. You tell them hey, you're welcome to sit here. Please keep your feet in because why? Well, there's actual real people in the show. There's real people. Why? Why are there real people? It's just weird things we would hear.
Most people don't realize the actors can't see anything and are so depending on, like you mentioned, audio, the lights. It's when you've seen the show more often, then you perhaps start realizing. And Japan managed to fix the issue you mentioned with when John and Sarah, and later John and the Terminator have to run through the audience from one side to another. It's all open. People can rest their feet in front of them, and then the actors can fall because of that. Japan managed to make a small wall from one side to another between the audience, so the actors, they were not hindered by the guests.
Oh, wow.
They had some protection. Japan is the only one to have a small wall dividing more like the front audience and the audience in the back.
That's amazing. I would have never known that. That's pretty neat.
Also, Japan has the original layout they had in mind when you entered the main show. In Hollywood, you enter the main show from the back. It's in Orlando. It's in the back. It's from the
It's
right
gonna be the back.
side.
Yeah, you're going to the back left.
You go. Yeah,
So you're gonna go in, and then you'll have. If I was explaining to Maurice, if when you walk into to our pre-show, you would technically be on our what we would call theater right, and then if you went when you guys take a left, that's what they call theater left. But if you looked at it from the stage, it would be stage left and stage right.
Yeah, you're talking indeed from the view of the stage. If you're watching from the stage to the audience, the entrance in Orlando is on the left at the end, and you exit on the right. Oh. Hollywood has it mirrored. You enter on the right in the back, and you enter to the left. Japan, however, you enter between the T-17 robots, those boxes. You walk between them, you go sit, and then they come out. And when the show is over, the robots are down again. You walk between those boxes to the exit. If you look from the stage in Japan, you enter on the right between the T-17 boxes, and you exit on the left.
That's intriguing. That would be like a really cool kind of thing that they learned, or like we can make it kind of neater than that. Now you also went to the one in Italy, yes?
Oh yes. The Movieland Studios. Yeah, the theme park has changed some names during the years, and also the attraction. It was at first it was Terminator 2 Live, and then they changed it to Terminator 5D, which got they got a 3D movie that is really similar to the one in Universal Studios, only much more cheaper. Mm-hmm. And then they changed it to Terminator 5D game, and that's more like a shooting game. Every guest gets a gun, a laser gun, and he can shoot a target. And each guest has a counter of their score, and the higher the group gets, the further you get into the story of the game until it's over. We even had some competition over there, I remember. But I've only experienced the Terminator 5D show, so the middle one, with the 3D movie.
That's, I remember, because Jeremy, I think somebody pulled up a video of you, and I really didn't know of you until then, and I saw that one, and we were talking about Jeremy. I think Jeremy ended up pulling up the video, because we started talking about, like, what the differences were for the audio, and like you said, for us, another Easter egg, because you said Japan learned from our mistake of putting a wall in between where the guests walk and the actors run. Our audio was kind of horrible where, for when there was no bike, you're right, the actors would come out through a special door, the Terminator would come out through a door on the side, from stage right. Or for us, if we were standing looking at the robot, it would be stage left. Yeah. For them, it would be stage right. They would come out, and you'd hear the brum brum. Look, it's him, and he would just kind of slide in. And I always made fun of the actors. I'm like, that's gotta suck. I told one of our taller actors, I'm like, you need to borrow your daughter's bike and just come down the ramp. And he was like, I was debating on that one day, because even with that, the actors would kind of be like,
some nice pink bike.
Yeah, nice pink bike with a little horn,
Yeah.
Go with them. I always thought they should run through the screen, but when I was looking at it and how it couldn't happen, they're like, no, because there's like a rail system back there and they can't run up it,
Yeah.
And then we started discussing, about the script with Sarah dying, no, Sarah, she dies, she runs out of ammo, because that's what James Cameron said.
Yeah,
she dies, I looked at Sarah Connor one day, I'm like, oh, you're alive, and she goes, what? I said, oh, you're new, okay, well, I told her the thing, and she goes, oh, Sarah dies, and everybody goes, yeah, Sarah dies, Sarah runs out of ammo, and she dies, yeah.
Sarah would do everything to protect
her son, that's what James Cameron said.
She would even put herself in front of the T-1000 just to try to stop him to go through that time portal.
Yeah. And that was kind of one thing I was like...
How she managed to get back alive in the end is still a question.
That's one thing I could never understand watching the show, and then somebody also, we'd get a lot of loopholes. People would sit there and go, well, and we'd had NASA engineers, people who were huge Terminator fans, such as yourself, walk out. We were, taking the glasses back. It was good, but I don't understand this part of it. And I'm like, well, it's a show. I was like, we're all Terminator
Yeah.
fans too, but you kind of have to let it go.
They had to take some liberties with it to have to bike on stage, and that like you mentioned, if you follow the Terminator time travel rules, no one can get back through time with clothes,
Yeah,
even with a
exactly.
motorcycle, like that stuff.
That would
But
never, yeah. Unfortunately,
it's
like,
a family show, so they wouldn't want a naked Arnold impersonator to arrive on stage.
I mean, I
Something
don't know.
like
Some of the guys that we had were pretty awesome looking. I think the ladies would have liked that.
Yeah, it would have attracted some more female guests, I would
Audiences, yeah.
think.
But yeah,
But
like
yeah,
we get a lot of loopholes at the show, and there's a lot of things, the robots would get stuck.
what I do wonder if they would put out that version, and people put on the 3D glasses would everything come at them directly then? When you have this naked Terminator impersonator?
That would be interesting.
Yeah, I would. Okay, that would be another subject for another time.
Oh my lord. Oh my lord. I love it though. So I'm gonna get into to our closing. When I finally told you, or I forgot that if I told you that we were closing down finally, or you found out before I did. I think I told you first, and then you freaked out for a good couple days.
I remember the day it was. It was one of the last days of my holiday. And I got a message from, I don't know if it was you, to be honest, or some of our big fan from Los Angeles. But I think it was the big fan from Los Angeles who mentioned first to me that indeed the show was closing. And it was on my last days of my my holiday. So I was already bummed on, like, damn, I have already almost spent almost every holiday day hours I could get on my work
you accumulated,
on that holiday. Also, the time frame, it would close within 1 month, and yeah, I live in the Netherlands, Europe, so it already takes some time to arrange trips, hotels, and that kind of stuff, the flight, to arrange it all. So it was a really short time window, and I was not sure if I could make it. I was really glad that my sister would join me on this little adventure.
Yeah, because it was a couple of days. You were like, "Hey, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. Can you get some cameras ready?" I said I already had the GoPros ready. I was already trying to set up alternate blocking and stuff like that.
I think 2 weeks before the final day, I finally got the confirmation I could go, because I had to ask work if it was still possible, because I had already taken 3 weeks of leave. Then I got back. I had to work 2 weeks, and then I had to go for another week on holiday. So they already missed me for 3 weeks, and there were some projects that needed my attention. But fortunately, my boss, he was really nice. He gave me the go.
I think, it's like when everybody finally meets you, and they're like, "Oh my god!" Like, because I had friends who Maurice got to meet, some friends of ours that are in now creative and stuff like that, were one of our techs that were amazing, and everybody's like, "Hey, I'm getting messages from this guy Maurice. I don't know who he is, and I saw that he was friends with you." And I'm like, "No, he's fine. Dakota, I found you. Dakota found you, and I guess you and Dakota started talking." And then when I saw, because you were saying previously, like, "Hey, I sent an invite to you to be a friend on Facebook so I could talk with you, but I don't know, I don't want to be rude. I don't want to be." And I think it was like, how we met was through who was Kimberly Duncan, if I knew anything. And I was kind of like, all right, well, I'll answer a question, Maybe I saw that you were friends with Dakota, and I asked Dakota, and Dakota's like, no, he's a really nice guy. And I said, wait a minute, that's the guy that did Terminator 5D, and that's the guy that's done all the videos. So I felt comfortable. And
I can imagine how weird it must be for people to get Facebook friend requests from some unknown guy from the Netherlands.
Well, I kind of had to look. I kind of had to look it up, and then I got a message from you. I think it was my birthday or something like that. And you wrote "Happy Birthday" and good luck. And by the way, if you don't mind asking me a question, please do. If you don't want to do it, and I said, you know what? I said I'm a nice guy. What question does he have? And I think it was about alternate blocking or something with the bike. And I was like, so I kind of chimed in, and then Dakota chimed in. And he was like, we had a good hour chat about this subject, and I'm like. So I was like, I really didn't know who you were. I was like, well, here's the alternate blocking that we know about, but it's nothing, we were, and Dakota and me kind of got flustered because we're trying to explain to you, like, the alternate blocking with Kimberly was so random. We explained it the best we could, Or like, Dakota's like, I don't know how to get best to him. I'm like, can you? I'm like, no, I don't really. Kimberly walking off, it just happens.
Yeah, but because it's so rare, and I had imagine I'm a big fan, and I had never heard of that
Mm,
before until Dakota mentioned it to
mm.
me, and then I need to know more. Why does it happen? How does it happen? And all that kind of stuff. And
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like when you find kind of Easter eggs. There's a couple that I still want to mention in the podcast about when you finally came over and you said, "Hey, I'm finally coming. My sister's coming," and I said, "Okay," because you were anal like, "I want to get tickets now. Should I buy tickets?" I'm like, "Do not buy tickets. I'll be there with you the day you come." And we
yeah,
finally got to meet up in person. And I was I was doing keychains because I was talking to somebody from all the way from Germany to do keychains for a project for one of our uh, Kimberly, she had a project she wanted to do for the closing crew because it was supposed to be a little gift for them for something. And then she texted me back and she was like, "I think these are going to be a goodbye gift. So if you could, help me out." It's like, "Yeah, sure." And when I ended up
uh,
doing the project for her, and I was working on that, and
I think I know the project. It was three Kimberly figures.
yeah,
Yeah,
that was a project,
I know.
and it was
I
a
made one.
really
I
it was
made one and I posted on my Facebook site, and then she
Yeah,
contacted me. She
Kimberly
wanted to
tried,
know
she
more.
tried getting a
Yeah,
hold of you, and she's like, "I
yeah,
already asked Maurice, and he's doing all the best he can, but it's super expensive on his end, and would it be easier
right.
for you to do it?" And I was like, "It probably would."
Yeah, you get the shipping from the distance from the Netherlands to
Yeah, and that was
the
the
United
problem. I mean,
States. Yeah,
she really tried working her butt up, but getting stuff from overseas to here is just it's ridiculously priced.
I know. And yeah, because the states have the best merchandise. Every Terminator 2 3D item I have bought online, it comes from the United States
Yeah,
because there's
unfortunately.
the show. So some little items from Japan, most of it is.
There's a few in Japan that I saw, but there's nothing that you were able to give me, and I will not get rid of it either. But he's like, "Where'd you get that?" I'm like, "That was given to a friend. I will not get rid of it. It was given to me for the last days of Terminator because I was able to help him out and get him to take photos. And luckily, when you were with me, everybody was like, 'Oh, who's he?' Because Maurice was there with us on our closing day, and all the actors were literally their families, their friends. It was family and friends only. They weren't allowing meet and greets. We were told no meet and greets. But the minute
Yeah,
everybody realized who he was, I literally had to make some calls and some friends. I was like, "Listen, this is who he is." And luckily, a few of the guys knew who he was. Once they looked at me, they're like, "Oh, Ollie's here. Okay, we trust him. He's been here long enough." So Maurice was able to get a lot of photos and stuff that he would never be able to. You know,
yeah.
he
I'm really grateful for that. Also to the other cast and crew members.
Yeah, a lot of them, once they
Okay.
realized who you are, one of the T1000s that he met personally, the T1000 actually sat down in the chair and kind of relaxed, and they started talking and
Yeah,
talking about the
yeah.
bomb. And I know you want the bomb, but unfortunately, we have no idea where the hell that went.
It's some items were remain and know where they went.
Yeah, MIA. We're still waiting on the one
Especially in
sign
action.
that I do have a photo of, and it's the Miles Bennett Dyson Memorial Auditorium, and I think Maurice mentioned that the other day. And we went
Yeah.
to the prop shop in Orlando here, and we still can't find it. So we're not sure if
I,
they took
I,
it off
I,
the
don't,
wall.
I don't think it will be for sale. I think someone
No,
has it.
no, unfortunately, no.
It's one of the more known props of the show. Everybody has to get past that sign to get into the show.
Yeah. And kind of a weird fact of the show, when Maurice finally came, we were discussing to him about the film. I said, "Hey, watch the film carefully in the middle here. It's going to jump." And he goes, "What was that?" And he was kind of sitting in the back row. We're talking about it. And he goes, "What was that from?" I said, "Well, that's actually part of Japan's film." He goes, "Wait, what?" And I go, "No, a real story because Terminator, towards the end of its linear, it had a fire. The film caught on fire. We still used film. And one of the actors is an Australian guy. And I was coming into work one day, and he ends up stopping me. He puts, they put their props away from the first act, and he comes and pulls his glasses up, and he goes, "Ollie, Ollie, come here, come here." So I come running back, and he said, "What's up?" And he goes, "Did you hear what happened this morning?" I said, "No, I didn't hear what happened." And everybody goes, "Yeah, we were down for 6 hours." I went, "What happened?" He goes, "Well, the film caught on fire." What? He goes, and his accent is pretty strong. It's Australian, so he's a really sweet. He's the sweetest guy ever. And he goes, "Have you ever seen Gremlins?" I said, "Yeah, I've seen Gremlins." He goes, "Well, think of the movie. Think of the movie scene." I went, "Oh." He goes, "Well, do you remember when it kind of catches on fire in the middle and it goes whoosh?" That's pretty much what happened. I went, "Oh." So they had to evacuate the theater. They had to go up on third floor, and there was smoke and fire and a little bit of damage to one of the projectors, but they were able to use some of the Japan film that they had to cut and put it in. So the show towards the end of it was all half of it was Japan's. And
Yeah, and we already discussed it when I visited, but
Yeah.
I still find it weird that Universal doesn't have any backups of the
We
movie.
did, but a lot of the backups over time they were degrading. I guess the one canister that they had, they went to go pull it out, and it was so degraded. It was just not. It was even when they tried focusing the lens and then tried doing the polarization. One of our AV techs I was talking to, he goes, it's just so badly degraded. I guess they used all the canisters they got from California. But the problem with film, it does degrade over time, and it's been rewound and rewound and rewound. It just kills the
But
film.
is there no maintenance on it, like a regular check to see the
They do.
quality
I mean,
of the
there's
film?
there were a lot of prints. I know there was one print that they literally threw in the trash. I was literally backstage one day and I was like, "What's in this?" And I was like, "They just threw the film out because it was so badly degraded." And I guess film only lasts so long, and up there it gets so hot and humid. People always wondering why T2 was always so cold, and I go, it's because of the projectors that they have to use because we're doing shows every 30 minutes. And then it became every 20 minutes for busy days, and then every 45 for non-busy days, which was only I think about 6 or 8 shows a day. So it gave the projectors more time to cool off and stuff like that. But the upstairs third level, where the actors had to go to go up on the catwalks, it was always cold, but up there it was always kind of hot because the heat rises, obviously. But a lot of the film would just degrade, unfortunately. And I know we went through a lot of film. We went through a lot more of the center projector than we did the left and right side because it was being utilized more. So they were like, hey, either. I think that they said that one year alone because the film was so degraded, we went through like 2 cans of film in one summer because it was just so hot and degraded. And like I said, it was so hard because towards the end of our run, I mean, they were telling us like we're not going to update the 3D. And when he said the full bill was going to be $5 million to upgrade, just the film alone into digital and then redo the projectors and all that's not cheap.
No.
And then when the CEO came up or the COO came in, because our COO was he's a really big fan of the show, and there was a lot of times when the robots weren't working. I told Maurice, one of the robots, we named the robot Squeaky, and it was Robot 6. We called him Squeaky because when the sound was off, you could hear all the hydraulics squeaking and you're just rattling. You're just like, oh, there's Squeaky. So when you would have to call to the tech booth and say, hey, Robot 6 or Robot 1's not going down or it's not locked in position, don't drop it, the techs would know which one we were talking about. But there were so many times like the robot arms would get stuck, the head would look like, there was one time they were working on it and they didn't set the head properly. So it looked like it was looking weird. It was like cross-eyed, like the head was like all kilter so bad because the tech didn't put it on properly. You're like, and one day the robot arm was like just shaking, like it was like waving to the crowd, and it was just bobbing up and down. You're like, what the hell is going on? I mean, you could just tell that the show was dying. And somebody, a lot of times when the guests walk out and they go,
but
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go on. You could already see the show was dying.
Well, it was more the 3D. I mean, people were really every show we were given a checklist by the end of the day. It got into the double digits to the quadruple digits of people just complaining about the 3D, making them sick. Not like good. It was the 3D glasses that we were using too. They were out of date, and we had a couple of bad batches that we paid for from another company. And I had even a NASA engineer come up to me, and the guy goes to me, he goes, I work for NASA here in Kennedy Space Center. Yeah. And he goes, I do 3D. He goes, you got to tell them the 3D is bad right now. He's like, I'm like, where were you sitting? We were told to ask them, where were you sitting? What part of this film did you see it? And a lot of them would tell us where they were. We'd mark it down on a piece of paper, and we told, our boss, and our boss would go, okay, cool. And I go, what is that for? And he goes, to see if it's feasible to keep it running or not, what we need to fix. And when they finally said it was going to be about $5 million to close to $5 million to, upgrade everything all to 3D, because there is no digital print, so they'd have to take the whole entire film and make it digital, and that costs money and time. They were like, no, we're not going to even bother,
Yeah, and still, it feels weird because they really updated the pre-show with new scenes, new special effects, and then the main show it's It's old. It was
Yeah,
old.
I mean, like I said, we were planning on doing the Genesis thing, and then when they
Yeah.
got caught with their pants down, not getting stuff signed by illegal or the production company that made Genesis, it was a big no because we had all that budget went down the drain,
Yeah, due to licensing problems, I've
Yeah,
heard. Do
that's from
you
what
do
I
you
heard.
do you know what the story would have been with Genesis? I've heard the rumors that they would film a new main movie with
They would have done
Emilia Clarke and.
I think they were planning on doing a new main movie because the engineers. I walked in on a meeting about, and it was early morning. I think it was about maybe 8 in the morning. I walked into the theater. Lights were all on, so you could see the theater clear as day. All the actors were on the stage. A lot of the actors were in wardrobe, and a lot of the technicians were, all the technicians were checking out some of the piping and a lot of the LN2 effects and stuff like that, and testing out the sprinklers and stuff like that for the
Yeah.
water effects. They all were talking about, hey, that this stays here, creative. Everybody from creative was there taking measurements of the projectors. They said there was going to be a whole new overhaul, and the overhaul would take about 3 months. So they were planning on updating the robots. They were planning on definitely updating the movie, the projectors. The one thing that they could do speaker system, but the audio was the first thing they were doing. Just the subtlety they were adding, audio, which was in the queue, obviously, and then in the pre-show, and then the main show, because the audio completely changed when you came here, you know. But they
Yeah.
cut out, like I said, they cut out the queue. I only saw the queue video, and I only saw about 5 minutes of it, and then it was really neat how what they were doing because it was like an expo. Welcome to welcome to the Cyberdyne Expo, Genesis, da 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 da, and then blah, and then they pulled it immediately, you know. So
Yeah.
I'm guessing they were planning on doing like they were still going to be the Terminator, obviously the bike, obviously the bike stuff like that. I don't know. I really don't know about the main show if they were going to change it. I heard they were going to do some updates to it, but I didn't hear much more than that. I don't want to make assumptions.
No, but I can imagine because Linda Hamilton played Sarah Connor in the first two movies and the T2 3D attraction, and now Emily Clarke has played Sarah Connor in the Genesis movie. That they had to change at least Linda Hamilton into Emilia Clarke, and the same goes for Edward Furlong's John Connor.
Yeah, and Ed Furlong, I kind of wish he kind of cleaned himself up a little bit, but it was kind of hard to everybody was saying they'd look at him into the work print and they go, man, he really went downhill. You'd hear a lot of guests come through with the VIP tours and they go, man, he really went downhill. You'd hear that a lot, But you really had a lot of. I mean, there was like I think I was telling you on Facebook. We were kind of, guests would really complain to us. They would be like, "How long's the show? 25 minutes." Oh man, I don't want to wait 25 minutes for this crap, And it's like, another guest would turn up and like, "No, the show's really good. If the bike's in or that." So you'd have your regulars, and then you'd have people who had never seen it before, or it's cool seeing people from the UK and other countries who've never seen it for the first time. When things work, when things didn't work, I kind of felt bad,
Yeah, you want their first impression to be good.
Well, at least the bike. I don't care about the Series 70s not working properly because that was just when they stopped sparking.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah, it wasn't really a big deal. The targets, sometimes the targets weren't working properly. That was fine. But seeing the bike come out and seeing just the awe,
Yes.
And because the fun part was seeing them jump when the shotgun goes off. They're like poof, you're like whoa. They weren't expecting the realism of the blanks, And people they'd walk out saying, "Oh, I don't know if I want to go see it at Greeter," and then walking out at the end of it and going, "That was good. Is there any more like this?" And you're like, "Unfortunately, this is the only one besides Shrek."
Yeah, but I think Terminator 2 has 3D has more to offer than Shrek because you have live actors in front of it. Yeah, it's more like a 4D show, I must almost say.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, you have that extra dimension, that extra element of people running and interacting in front of the screen and interacting with the screen.
Yeah, and you do have, and there was movement. There was about a 1 inch drop in the seats. There was one stationary section for those who are pregnant or just who can do backdrops. And it was a slight element, and people were like, "Oh, the chair." Watching them seeing the chairs drop when they do the explosion. I think the thing that I kind of hated, is the LN. You could tell the effects were kind of dying down because the LN2, if it wasn't hot enough, it wouldn't blow enough, enough steam at the guests or something like that. So there were things that I was just like, okay, cool, Even towards the end of it, I was kind of so bland with it, But I still loved being there. But it was like it was time for me to go too. I was like, I mean, like you said, you don't love it. I'm like, no, I had great times there, But towards the end of it, I got tired of hearing the complaints and the guests, the 3D is not working, and then this isn't working, and then
Yeah,
telling your boss like, hey, this isn't working, and they just didn't care, It kind of sucked, but
but nobody cared. At least that's how it felt to me. I visited in 2014.
Mhm.
Well, I visited first in 2008, and then when you got into the cyber image store after the show, it's completely filled with Terminator merchandise.
Yeah.
And when I visited in 2014, there was only a small corner of Terminator merchandise. You could already tell it's slowly dying.
Yeah. Well,
You could see you could see the robots. The like a lot of pistons were gone. A lot of parts were missing.
Oh yeah.
And even there's a radio studio in the opposite of the Terminator 2 3D attraction that was themed as a Terminator 2 radio studio, and it closed. Oh, no, it didn't close. It changed to a mini studio in 2014. All those little things were already forecasting the show's doom, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was kind of that. It was kind of like people really didn't understand what Terminator was. I mean, when you're walking through the venue consistently, like I was, you'd hear, "What is Terminator?" And the parents would have to discuss with the family, what it was, and he's a robot coming back from time to save this kid. It was the human resistance, and you sit there, and one guy goes, "You must like working there." I said, "I do," but consistently, every day you would hear, "Hey, hey, what? I'll be back." And so I would just say, "And so will I." The next day and the next day after that. But I don't know if you're going to be here.
Yeah.
It kind of got dull, but it was like I
It
said,
got repetitive.
it got repetitive. But for you seeing it as like a huge fan and knowing what I saw, like we had two fires there, and Maurice was like, "What's the craziest thing that happened?" I'm like, "The fire." What fire? So the fire that we had, because Maurice kind of asked me about it, because the first fire I missed, I was told by a T1000 as we were walking into work one day, and he goes, "You didn't hear what happened last night?" I said, "No, what happened?" He goes, "The stage caught on fire." I went, "How?" So apparently the bike came out, and apparently there was enough oil or hydraulic fluid or whatever it was. It went down the zipper, went down the zipper like Back to the Future, and then went up into the screen. It looked like Back to the Future. And some of the stage caught on fire, so they had to end up starting to spray this every night, spray the stage down with water, and they had to shampoo it every night, and clean up all the the debris and stuff like that from all the gunpowder and stuff like that. And the second fire that I was there for, towards the end of it, was everything was going well. There was training on the other side. So my buddy was training with somebody else, and the bike comes down as normal, and I'm thinking, okay, cool. I'm watching and making sure nothing's going on. Nobody's scared. All of a sudden, the Terminator shoots, the shotgun like he always does. And for those who don't know, the shotgun has cork, or not. It started having cork. I guess they had a cotton swab inside of the shell that's blank, and apparently it didn't burn. Or the cork, I guess what it was still on fire because it's so hot. It landed just right to where the Kimberly falls down and where the control panel is, where they go underneath the stage. A flame, huge flame, looked like somebody lit a flare gun, shot over the top of it, and I was like, "Whoa!" I kept yelling. I yelled so loud to my friends across the theater over the guests. I said, "Do not hit the E-stop. Do not hit." I yelled so loud. I hit it. Thank God. I called upstairs in the control room where they can already see it. They were already on it, and I was talking to the actors when it happened because they were able to go underneath the stage. The T1000 is covered up in his jacket, and Kimberly is the only one that has a fire blanket that covers her. And he ended up rolling on top of her to cover her up because they were freaked out. They were like, "What?" They were praying to God. Did they get hurt? Oh yeah, they were praying to God that nobody got. They didn't get hurt, but they said that he told me, he goes, "Yeah, man, I don't. All I remember seeing was flame over my head." He goes, "All I did was roll on top of her and kind of wish we weren't going to get stuck in the stage, and we didn't." So, I was like, wow. I ended up having to fill out an hour report about that, and they're like, "Where did you see it? What happened?" And I was like, "It looks like somebody lit a flare gun," but apparently what it was is when I got the report back, when he shot the shotgun, a little swab or whatever oil was just enough. I guess it was enough built up over time that it landed just right in a crevice and it caught on fire. All that oil. I was like, wow. So there were some minor things,
Yeah, minor things.
Well, I mean that was crazy even minor, but it's nothing that they prepared for, previously. But yeah, it was the second fire that I actually got to be a part of. I was like, whoa, and it was sad because you're telling guests, hey, you need to evacuate the building, and somebody goes, we thought that was part of the show. No, that wasn't part of the show. And we were getting yelled at, like, why are you sending us out of here? Well, there was a fire. Do you smell all the smoke? One of my friends was a Coast Guard, retired Coast Guard, military guy, was walking a lady out. Lady was yelling at him. You can't tell me to leave. He goes, ma'am, do you see the smoke? Do you smell the smoke? It's called a fire. He goes, our first priority is to get you out of the building. She couldn't understand that. She waited her time. She wanted to go sit down and be in the fire. I'm like, okay. Some people, they're ignorant, but it is what it is.
Ignorant that, plus that they had to wait already in the queue area.
Yeah, they had no idea what was going on.
If they don't know the show, they have no idea what the show is about. Then they enter the pre-show where they expect they can sit, but they have to stand another like 10 or minutes.
Yeah, the pre-show. Once you get in, we would load. It's a 10-minute prior load time. So say if the show was at 10:30. We would load around 10:20. We'd have the 10-minute load time to get everybody in the pre-show, the counters counting them, and then the person in pre-show would control pretty much all of that. Would have to fix the glasses. Would have you by 27. If you look on your clock or your watch, it was a clock we had to watch because that's what the actors' time. They were synchronized to their clock upstairs, and then you'd hit there's a green button inside the panel you would hit that would tell the actor and the control booth that you were ready. That it was time for the actor to get ready. The actor up on her balcony would have a button that would light up. The whole panel would light up, so she would know, okay, I now can turn the mic on. I can hit, start the pre-show. So we would wait for her, and then you would call out to the person up front and say, hey, I have 2 minutes. And then you would say, sometimes we would say the lady in red, has come out, or so and so, or who should not be named, or so we'd say some weird things on the radio, about Kimberly, and then we would say, hey, last guest is so and so. We'd close the doors and give the count. So, they had it was like it's a good 17 minutes in pre-show, because once pre-show starts, it's about 7 minutes, to get that all set. Then you got to come in. So I can understand the lady's predicament, but at the same time, there's a fire. We're trying to get you out safely.
You have the safety issue.
Yeah, it's safety.
You want to get out alive, so just get your ass out.
Yeah, get your ass out, exactly. But those are all the fun, quirky stuff that I had to go to. I've had, like I said, people were just. We had one guy where he got super wet because the sprinkler head busted open above him, so he got a whole couple gallons, 100 gallons of water sprayed all over his lap. He walks out. He walks up. He goes, is this supposed to happen? He was all covered in water, drenched, and the sprinkler was still broken.
Well, he could be happy that it was located in the sunshine state. So
yeah, pretty much. He goes, I think I got more wet than I was supposed to be. And I remember you had a story from Japan about you getting caught inside the pre-show.
Yeah. I was. Like you mentioned before, they also have a counter to count the guests and to see if there's still a guest left in the queue area or in the pre-show. They can count it. So I went to the pre-show and I was recording there. I was walking to give more like a point of view video of people walking through the queue area and pick up the glasses. And then I would walk back to the entrance and film some stuff over there. So I was walking through the whole queue area, even putting my camera on a tripod to film the queue show area video in Japanese. And then one of the managers came to me and we talked a bit, and she was very helpful, and she would let me photograph her costume and all the details on it. And so we were talking, and one show had already passed by then, and I was filming the queue video during the second show. And then after that show, she suddenly told me, okay, you have been here for a long time. Now you really have to go, but because the counter is still messed up, please leave this queue area, go into the pre-show and to experience the show. So I was, okay, I will go, and then I will come back later on the day. She literally chased me out of the queue area.
You got to go. But ma'am, you don't understand, man. I came all the way from the Netherlands to see this.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I was then later on the day, because Japan is really crowded, the Universal Studios Park.
Yeah.
I think there were like, well, I've been told there were 35,000 people that day.
Wow.
So I came back later that day. I filmed in front of the building, like I always do with my little fan documentaries.
Yeah.
I was filming there, and then the same manager walked up from behind me, and she greeted me and more like, "Hey, you again?" And then she really talked so further. She still recognized me and thought, "Oh, he's back."
You're not a hard guy to. Once everybody gets to know who you are, especially my crew, when they finally knew who you are, and you met a few of our guys, tech guys.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh, it's you. Okay, cool." Because first everybody was like, "Why is he in here like with Ali?" And I was like, "No, he's fine. I tried setting up the Kimberly thing, and I went backstage and talked to a few of the actors, and you got to meet them, and you've already know a few of them through Facebook. But I'm not going to give away their names for privacy. But yeah, I mean, I was like, hey, and they're like, what? Ollie, he needs to go, and I'm like, well, and they're like, wait a minute, no, you're fine, cool, he's with Ollie, it's fine. So he was able to get a lot of photos and videos that he wasn't normally able to get, and one of our techs left the robot up for a good 45 minutes to an hour.
Very good detailed shots from the sides, from the bottom up.
Yeah, it was funny because one of the actors was like, "Hey, I took some more photos for you. Did he get the back shots?" They asked me like, "Did he get any of the back shots?" And I'm like, "He better have, because it was up there for a good hour."
Yeah, but I because I'm just a guest, and I can imagine Universal does not want to take the risk of me having break stuff in the show or breaking some bones of my own and get sued.
Yeah.
They won't let the guest up on the box to
no, unfortunately, I've climbed up there too, and I've stood up next to the robot, and everybody was like, "Be careful," and I'm like, "Okay, cool," because that originally that didn't happen until about a couple years ago. We used to take the meet and greet photo by the T2 3D exit doors, which, like you said, was very dark and stuff like that. So I would take photos of friends and family of the actors because it was their first day on the job, so we take a photo with their family and stuff like that. And then when the actors decided, well, we should turn one of the lights on, the house lights on, so we can actually see, and then raise Robot 1, and then which would be a T-70 Robot 1, and the actors would climb up, John would step up in the Terminator, and T-1000 would walk up, and they would take photos with the family and stuff like that. There were a lot of times we had a lot of people, then they would see the T-1000 walk out, and they'd freak out, because, they think he's a bad guy, but he's actually a really nice guy.
Yeah, really, the actors are really nice.
Yeah, one of the T-1000s came walking out and scared the hell out of a little kid. He didn't mean to, but he was like, "Oh no, I'm really a nice guy." And it was a Make-A-Wish family, and he was like, "No, I'm really nice. My name's so and so." And the little girl watching gave him a hug, and he was really nice.
But with the photo opportunity with the T-70 robot, I think Universal Studios Hollywood did that already for some years. They have a little, or like a VIP tour, some kind of special front of the line pass thing, which let a guest have some meeting with the actors after the show.
Oh,
they can sit. They get to sit in the front row, and then the Kimberly actress comes up, and then the John Connor comes up, and then the Terminator eventually comes up, and they give a little bit of Terminator trivia to the guests.
I think I remember seeing it. There's something on YouTube, yeah.
Yeah, there's a video of it, and they let people. They had a life-size mini hunter that people could see and touch. And after that little presentation, they gave those VIP guests opportunity to take pictures with those three characters in front of one of the T-70 robots.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, there are a lot of photos on the internet.
Is there any other questions you have to want to answer? You want to answer it, or is there anything kind of that you were like, what's another Easter egg, or anything else you want the people to know?
I want to add something to my story of Japan.
Go for it.
I was not only chased out of the queue area, but I went to the pre-show and then the main show, and then I waited for every. I wanted the shot of the wall I mentioned between the front audience and the back audience. So I waited a bit for the guests to leave, and then I was filming there, and then one of the security guys came to me and also chased me out of the main show room. I got a lot of chase in this, I must say. They wanted me out
You're
of
like
the
an international superstar, man. You're like, dude, I don't care. I'm here for Terminator.
Well, I only had one day in the park, and for me a visit is expensive because
I would
the
imagine so.
flight and the stay there, the hotel, but also it would have been very interesting for me to buy like an annual pass, like a year pass, so I could visit more often. But I only have those limited days that I am there, and Orlando, I knew I would always get back one day, but Japan is not a country
that was one thing you were like, hey, I don't know if I'm going to get back to Orlando ever. Like, I need you to take photos, and I'm like, I got the photos if you need them. So.
Yeah, I thought 2014 would have been my last visit, and I said to my sister then, if the show closes, I really want to go back for the final show because I already missed out the final show in Hollywood, and because during my visit
I heard the final
2009,
show in Hollywood wasn't really that good, and I think we had the better send off. Our send off was really it was temperamental. We had a cast and crew, and it was cool to see a lot of the actors, especially a lot of the actors that worked there for eons, or 20 plus years.
Hollywood also had something like that.
Yeah.
They also had after the show the ex employees and the current employees that worked on T250, they could meet up in the Globe Theater in on the opposite of the building there.
Yeah.
They had some kind of special meeting. They could drink. They could take pictures of the life-size endoskeleton there. And the final show, it was also a lot of. There were a lot of people there. Also,
I saw people that I saw one of the head creators of it, and I was like, oh my god, it's one of the head creators. Like he came in with like a jean jacket on, and he started bringing some of his own props, and I was like, whoa. So I started meeting people I haven't met in years. People were like shaking my hand, and like somebody's like, people that I worked with for years, and I'm like, oh my god, where the hell have you been? Or people that actually helped build T2 from what it is. Even original text, used to work on it.
Yeah, but this is the Orlando final show you're mentioning right now. Yeah, I was talking about the Hollywood one.
Hollywood, yeah.
They also had some kind of send off, but it's perhaps it's the universal way, but there wasn't also like a big fanfare or something, a big send off. There was only one sign at the Global Theater that said thanks for the memories 3D.
Yeah.
And guests during that day didn't even know the show was closing. Nobody was told. So it was during the last show that suddenly the clock was set on closed, and nobody actually knew. Only
ours was really weird. The way that it went down, I kept texting you throughout the day. I said, hey, but I wasn't supposed to work on the last day of closing. Actually, a friend of mine wanted not to work, and I was like, you know what? I was like, it's my last send off, and I'm glad you were able to get one of the farewell T-shirts that we had.
Oh yeah.
For like $36 on eBay. Don't buy it. It's not worth it.
Well, I found some cheaper. Saw some cheaper.
Yeah, I mean, I found my actual T2 cast and crew closing shirt, which is pretty cool. I think I'll take a photo of it and send it over to you. I've already worn it like twice, and somebody's like, "Oh, do you miss it?" I'm like, "I miss the family and my friends. I don't miss the craziness. Like, I don't miss the headache of certain things, but I miss the family. So it's good to see a lot of the family that I miss." But
what I saw indeed during my meeting during my visit there, and also on Facebook, it's one big family.
Yeah, it was always like that. It was sad to say goodbye to everybody.
It's for Orlando, it was one big family, but also Hollywood is one big family.
Well, a lot of our Orlando actors were actually working in Hollywood too, and a lot of them worked in Japan too. So a lot of them got to do crossover. Because I met Sarah Connors that I haven't met in years, and I've met a lot of Terminators that I haven't seen in years either. Because they grew up and they had a lot of their families and stuff like that. So it was really neat to see that. But it was weird for us because we didn't. I was texting you throughout the day, and the last day I said, "Hey man, get here early." And then I was told in the morning, like, "Hey, we're all here." I actually did a podcast in the beginning of the morning. I got to work around 7 a.m. Did a quick podcast.
You're walking through the queue.
Walking through the queue. I started talking about like how my company started and stuff like that. And I kind of brought up some fun facts about the venue. But I was like, this is home for me. This is where I started. This is, I kind of mentioned the blandness of the venue and what I took away from it, like the family and friends. But we, just kind of was a fun relay for myself. But yeah, we didn't know we were going to have, because people didn't know the venue was closing. They didn't know when I was out front, when you finally met up, you and your sister met up with me, and we were talking a little bit, and I ended up giving you a little something. I'm not saying what it was. Maurice got something from me that I found for our closing day. But I saw him and his sister, and I said, hey, you might want to get her early, and we were told like you can record all day, because there were so many phones in that show, and our boss, he's like, hey, people are going to film, and so let it happen. Don't stop anybody, because what happened was the actors' families were coming in, and they were filming like crazy with huge cameras. And I don't know if you were in the shows, but I was literally doing a show with all the former actors in the corner with me, and all you heard was cheering on my side. And one of my guys came behind, he goes, one of my managers came, he's like, can you imagine what the guests are thinking right now with all the screaming and yelling from all the actors? I was like, they have no idea who's next to me. They don't know that any of these guys were actors or former actors of the show.
Yeah.
I said, I know who they all are, but nobody else does. Because one of the guests looked over at me and like, can they please be quiet? I said, they're actors of the show. They used to do the show. They're not going to shut up. This is a good moment for them. You know?
This is the final
countdown for them. Yeah, we didn't it was a sad countdown for us, because like you said, we were only told a month ahead.
Yeah, the time window was very short. And even it was not a big, not some kind of press.
No, and we were, like I said, when I got a call that night when I had food poisoning and stuff. A friend of mine goes, hey man, he goes, it's not false. I just text so and so, and I asked her personally, and she said it's not false. It's real. T2 is officially closing. By the time I got to work the next day, I walked in because I put on my t-shirt and my stuff and stuff for Cyberdyne. Walked over, didn't clock in, had a quick breakfast, and walked in. Everybody would start talking about it in the break room. Everybody's having coffee and talking, and I said, so what's going on? Our managers come walking in. They're like, we have a note. They had an email in their hand on a piece of paper, and they said, oh, so when y'all clock in, we need to talk. Everybody, we need to talk with everyone. And they said, it's not a joke. Universal has officially announced at 9 o'clock this morning in the media department that T2 will be closing for and I believe it was an action-packed attraction that they're planning. Again, we don't know what it is. We still haven't been told. The actors and us and ourselves have made assumptions. I will tell you what the assumptions are. The assumptions are Bourne.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest ones. And somebody else said a haunted house kind of thing. But I was like, no, that can't be true. So we're all thinking it's the Bourne supremacy or anything with Bourne related.
Most people do think it's Bourne.
Yeah. And one of our main actors who played the Terminator, because he was at a meeting and he said that he said, you know what? He goes, all I keep hearing is Bourne. So that's not a speculation. That's kind of a big rumor that's been going around with all the actors that have worked there, myself. Universal has not confirmed it or denied it, so don't take our word for it. But that's what we keep hearing. Who knows?
Yeah, but who knows? Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, it fits the description of the building. If you guys have been to Orlando, it fits the description. So, I mean, it makes sense to me.
But what is the description? I must ask.
If you've ever seen like the Bourne Treadstone kind of thing, it's kind of like an outdoor facility kind of thing. And the way Terminator looks, it looks like a regular office building, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So when I kind of thought about the movies and what I've watched over the years, I was like, it would make sense, because I was like, what if? And years ago, I was thinking, what if T2 closes down? They'd have to shut down the whole entire sidewalk. They'd have to break down the whole entire wall, and I was actually able to walk into T2 a couple of days afterwards. They didn't have any of the doors. The doors have all magnetic or card readers, so you have to scan your ID and then it will unlock the doors. They started locking all the doors because people were trying to sneak into the venue and take photos and stuff like that. So finally, about a few months ago, they finally locked all the doors. You need security clearance to go into any of the doors. My boss was able to go into it, and he was like, they haven't, because when they closed T2 down, they didn't do anything for like over 2 months. It was just sitting there. Nothing was going on. No, the venue was
weird,
just.
Because it seemed they were in such a hurry to.
Yeah, that's what all the actors said, and a couple of my coworkers said the same thing. He's like, I don't know why they were in such a hurry to shut us down, and some of the actors said the same thing, because they kind of had tears in their eyes. We're like, I don't know why they shut us down so fast. They weren't planning on doing anything with it. Because I remember you texted me. You said, hey, is there anything available prop wise? I said, nothing yet. I said, when I find anything out, I'll let you know. And nothing really popped up. And my girlfriend at the time, my girlfriend now, she texted me. I was home, and she goes, the guy that likes Terminator stuff. I said, yeah. She goes, I think I found something. Does this look normal to you? And I went, that's a T2 thing, because I think there was 3 canisters in the It was canister of the film, guys. There's no film in the canister. Unfortunately, it just says left screen, like left eye, something like that. And I was able to notice what it was. And she goes, "What just closed down?" I said, "That would be T2." And she goes, "Exactly. Should I buy it?" And I'm like, "Get it now." And luckily she did, because that was the only thing that really popped up on the market. You know.
Yeah.
And then something else popped up on the market, but it sold so fast. It was one of the film reels. It was like $65. I think it had an image burn to it. I think they said it did, but they wanted like, I think, an extra $75, $80, and it wasn't worth it for the price. And I guess some guy already bought it. And I was like, oh, okay, that's, it doesn't say Terminator, Why would I want it? But it was, it was rough, because it was like, okay, so they told us super late. They didn't, and our shutdown was super quick. I mean, the actors were like, whoa, It was even weird, because I was talking to one of our guys when we were closing, who built the venue, one of the directors of it. And even he left work from a big company, I guess, to fly in just to Orlando to go do the closing, because he had no idea. So he had to drop everything he was doing with his family, and he had to come in and see the last show, which was kind of weird, because it sucked for everybody, because it was like, I thought we'd have more time, but we didn't. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
But we all think it's going to be boring, guys. That's our assumption. I'm not going to confirm or deny it.
I won't ask.
No, I mean, I'm not going to. That's what we're all thinking.
I must admit, I'm not really interested in what it will be.
No.
I will just wait and see, but it's no Terminator. So
no, it's not. Yeah, like you said, yeah, it's not T2. I don't care about it. Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's not that I don't care. I'm curious what they will do with theater and what they will reuse of the old show. But it's not that I'm chasing rumors or whatever.
No, you're not one of those people. No, you're not one of those. Like I said, prior to this, we were told, a year ago, 2 years ago. Like I said, we'd have always that random guest would come by and be like, "So when's T2 closing?" And we didn't know. We don't, we're told that all the. Oh, you guys are closing? No, we're not closing. We're not. We have no plans on closing, because they have so much merchandise in the store. They gotta sell it.
Yeah.
And I remember I love when people would walk to the store and they'd be like, "Hey, how much is that robot?" And you're like, "That robot is $7,000. That's all?" And I'm like, "Huh, very funny," because you ain't got the money to buy it. But I remember one guy from Ireland went in and he bought 2 of them immediately.
Yeah.
I was like,
but I think we discussed it back then.
Yeah.
For us, $7,000 is cheap for a robot.
Yeah.
Because the prices here are much more.
Yeah, and just shipping, just getting it home to you, just shipping it home and stuff like that would be outrageous.
I just calculated. I think one life-size robot here will cost, I think, $8,600.
Oh wow!
So if you can buy one for $5,000 or $6,000, then yeah,
take it. Yeah.
Compared to here, but of course you get the shipping cost, the import duty.
Yeah, which is
all adds up.
It's horrific.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say 5,000 is less money or is just a small amount.
I can understand.
Enough,
coming from the
Ireland, to the prices here.
Yeah. But yeah, it was like all the fun. So it was like I said, we didn't really know what was going on until they told us. And I'm glad you got to fly in when you did, because it was that was a rough thing. Cause it was like weeks of just getting all the stuff planned out, and they go, is he gonna make it? Is he not gonna make it? How do I get planned? But it was cool.
I had to get approval from my work.
That was rough.
Wife, because she would be alone here with
the kids.
Triplets, yes, for a whole week.
Mm-hmm.
And of course I had to. I'm sorry. My sister had to go with me, so that was a lot of arranging in a short time.
Mm.
But we managed to do it.
You did, and it was insane, and it was just like you had to get you all the stuff that you needed to see, and and the one clip you were very adamant. You were like, if you can find it, if you can grab it, you have to find this clip. And I was like, and again, we're gonna throw it out there one more time. If anybody can find Kimberly surviving, if you have a clip on your cell phone or something like that, at least decent quality, send it over to me. I'll give you the links to my email or the podcast, and I'll send Maurice's stuff over to him. But he's looking for Kimberly alternate surviving, and for those who don't know what that is, that's when Kimberly, instead of falling on the crash pad when she gets choked by the T-1000, she ends up alternating it by walking off the stage instead. The cue would usually be, I'm getting out of here, or, I'm going to go find security or something like that. Because there were different authorizations. I mean, there was one like I said, when the bike wasn't working, the Terminator would just walk down and then shoot his gun and then walk off the stage. Another one for one of our actors, he wouldn't run during Act 3. He would come off the stage, but he would not walk around through the crowd. He would actually go through the front because of his knees. Yeah. And that was another authorization. And then there was another one. I don't know if Maurice knows this one, but when it was too hot, there's too hot, the John Connors, their gloves would kind of get broken. They would actually run throughout where we were standing. They would not rappel down. Sarah would, but John Connor would actually run into the crowd with us.
From which door? Sorry, the audio just.
Yeah, he would actually come out to where the exit doors were. Say in Orlando, where we would stand, it would be for the actors.
You mean the exit door for the audience?
Yeah, so we would actually, so it would be an exit door where they would actually come up behind the robots. There's actually 2 doors there, and you walk that up with us to talk to somebody.
Oh yeah, I know the door.
He would sit there. There would be a chair here hiding in a corner, so he would actually come out and look. He'd peek, but he would already know the cue, and he was dependent on us because one day nobody told me he was there. It scared the living daylights out of me. He almost slammed into me. I didn't know he was there. No one said anything. I was like, holy shit. And he was like, and I remember him looking back at me, and I'm not going to say the actor's name, but he apologized. He was like, no one said anything? I was like, no, I didn't know you were, because I talked to him backstage, and I said, what happened? He goes, my gloves, I have no gloves. Or he had gloves, but the gloves that they had were just for show, but the gloves that he needs to rappel down, because when they rappel, it burns into the gloves a lot. So they're only able to do 100 rappels per rope, I guess it is. And another fun fact, Sarah Connor rappels 36 feet, John Connor rappels 38 feet.
Because of the stage.
Yeah. I asked that one day. I had a nerdy question. I said, nerd question backstage. Everybody went, what do you want to know? I said, how high is it from Sarah? Sarah's jump, and they told me what it was. And for Sarah, it was 36, and for John, it was 38. And some of the John Connors would rappel so weird. Like, they'd come down, and they'd be, like, swinging on the rope, and you're like, what are you doing? But, yeah, like I said, he led me one day because I asked him what happened to gloves. He said, hey, my gloves, I don't have any gloves. Can't get them in for, like, another week, so I'll be coming to the crowd, coming into your side. It would scare guests, too, because guests would be like, what the hell? There's nobody there. But a lot of times people would just point up at John Connor, and, they would see him in the catwalks just chilling, sitting there waiting for his cue.
Yeah.
But I'd hear him, I'd say, God, is that you? Like, shut up. But yeah, it was fun times in Terminator. It's just weird things that we've had. And is there any other questions you want to know, or kind of trivial you want to get?
I do have one request.
Okay.
It's also a request for footage. You already mentioned the Kimberly exit, the surviving Kimberly. I'm really looking for that one, but it's also the alternative ending with when the Sarah and Connor do not appear. Sarah and John do not appear on stage at the end, but there's only the gun because the lift there is not the lift is not working.
Yeah. So what he's talking about, guys, there's an alternate ending also that I actually got I got video of, but it was too dark on my cell phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you couldn't really see because sometimes the Terminator will leave the laser on the gun, so it looks like it's like firing through the. You'll see the laser going through the LN2 when it goes on stage.
Okay.
What happens is the Act 3 lift won't work properly, so that's why that ending will happen, because the Act 3 lift is where the Terminator and John Connor come up.
Yeah,
and Sarah Connor.
You can spot it already earlier in the show.
Sometimes you can. Sometimes they'll turn it off, like it won't work properly, or you just can't. I guess it's a fault in the sensor or whatever it would be. What happens is during the show, the Terminator will come up, or sometimes if they won't come up, there's another alternate where the Terminator will walk in from backstage. There's a little curtain that they would pull open.
It's indeed Act 3 when they enter Skynet. Mm-hmm. The Terminator and John, there's a lift when it's dark. The lift will lift them up onto the stage. Mm-hmm. Nobody will see it. But when that lift is not working, the actors will walk in from the audience point of view from the right. Mm-hmm. They will walk to the center of the stage. And then they will continue like you just walk in the building. Sometimes
they were a little bit late, so sometimes they would go down for the lift, but they wouldn't find out there was a problem until a little bit late. So they would come up on stage just a second or two late because they'd have to walk up real quick and go. They would say the cue. They would hear the audio. You'd hear the audio. What is this place? Skynet, and they would do it, and it'd come up a few seconds later, but they would do it. But the footage that he's looking for is when sometimes the Terminator, when he gets down, he'll lay the gun down, or he'll turn the laser off, or sometimes the tech underneath the stage will hit a button and drop the Act 3 lift. He'll recover the gun, and then Sarah and John, because John has to run. He's one of the fastest people on stage. There's actually a fire pole that he actually would have to jump down.
Yeah, 10 seconds I heard they had to when they when they climb up the stairs.
They run, yeah, because I was literally backstage one day watching them. There's a fire pole that they jump on and they slide down and they run down the stairs real quick.
Yes. And to that Act 3 lift.
Yeah, he's only got about 10 seconds to make it in queue.
And then they just wait to be propelled up.
Mm-hmm.
But when that lift is not working, then I think the tech will place the gun there with the lights on.
The tech. So what would happen with there? So the tech would usually, if it was working, the tech would usually grab the gun and put it to the side, and then Sarah and John would come back up during the lights darken, and then they'll come back up, and that would be your thing. As the lights fade, the actors go down. So if that doesn't happen, here's your alternate. Would be the Terminator would put the gun there. Laser usually on, laser usually off. It depends on what the actor does, because some guys turn it off, some guys turn it on. They'll run up and they'll how many seconds? You got this many seconds, and then you go into the time portal. And the gun will just, the lights will turn off, and you'll see the laser. I owe my life to the Terminator, the heroes of actions of the machine, the Terminator.
Yeah, the end narration, it features the 3D image of the endoskeleton head turning into a Schwarzenegger head.
Mm-hmm.
And then normally you get John and Sarah on stage, but then you have the plasma rifle.
Yeah, plasma rifle just sitting there. And that's because the act really wasn't working. And then the actors, the guests will get up and leave, and sometimes some of the guests will take photos of it and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure there are photos of it, because a lot of guests would take their cell phones out and take photos of it.
Photos are also welcome. Everything is welcome at this moment.
There should be. I mean, that's the hardest part, is finding the keywords to this, guys. Is we don't know what keywords to punch in. I've tried a few things for Maurice. I've tried typing like laser plasma rifle, on T2 3D, and so many weird things pop up. Nothing that we're looking for. We're looking for just that simple clip. I had two of them, but I don't know where they went in my files. But what happened was a technician would come out when the guest would leave. They'd come up and they'd pick the gun up, and then sometimes they would forget it was even there. Plenty of times. We'd have shows where Kimberly would come out and a plasma rifle is sitting right on the stage.
Wow.
Yeah, that was another loophole, like another Easter egg, because I remember the actress one of the nicest actors, and I think you've met her or something like that. She walked out one day, the plasma rifle sitting right there on the stage. And sometimes we'd call them because we're bringing the people through the show. And we're like, hey, the plasma rifle's still on the stage. Okay, thank you. We'll have somebody come get it. One stage I jumped on the stage, I took it off the stage, and I brought it backstage and put it on the shelf for them. And but sometimes they would forget. But the one day the actress made fun of the techs, because she walks out and she goes, well, that shouldn't be here. She goes, look what I found. A laser rifle. A tech comes walking up. She goes, look, a stage tech. And hands it to the stage. So she embarrassed the hell out of the tech that was supposed to come out and do it. And I was like, oh my God. I want to name the actress, but I can't name who she is. She's amazing. She's a sweetheart. But yeah, she's so quirky. She's just like, look. And she was the actress that I said that stopped the show for 2 minutes because nobody would, that gentleman did not want to move down. She stopped the show for 2 minutes because he refused to follow directions.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I do have a question now.
Go for
it. How many guns did he have? And how many, the grenade satchel charges do he have? Is it 2 or
how many props did they have?
Yeah, versions of one thing. Like how many of the plasma rifle? How many?
So they would have. From what I saw from the back of the from storage, because I know that the ones they come up on stage, Sarah Connor comes up. There is they have 2 AR-15s that are the backup ones for the show. The Terminator has 2 of them also for backup for the Act 1, and those are real. Those are what they're put in the prop cage. I'll call it the prop cage.
But 2 backups, so that means they have 3 guns in total?
Yeah, so they're going to have 2 actual AR prop guns inside the gun cage, and then 2 for the Terminator. And then there is a rubber one for when she comes up on stage, so that would be 3. There is not Actually, no, I believe there is a rubber one because I remember when the fire happened, they could not use the ammo. They couldn't use ammo for a month because they were told they couldn't. So we had to use a sound effect or or some kind of noise to simulate that. So there's got to be 3 of those. And then I know there are 2 plasma rifles. There's 2 because the one that you saw when it was brand new, it had the new laser on it. The other ones kind of didn't work. They were so broken. I ended up picking one up and actually feeling how heavy it was. It didn't work so well. When they would pull the trigger, it wouldn't do anything. The light and the sensor inside it that they installed didn't work properly, but it was so broken. So they had 2 of those, and I believe they had 2 bombs because I was able to hold one of the bombs backstage. And like they said, one of the T-1000 told you the first bomb that they made was overly engineered, so it worked too well. That's what he said. I was able to hold one of the ones that they kind of made. It worked well. It worked okay, but if you saw it up close, it didn't look as good.
Well, I've seen images of it. It's more like a thermal can. With some additions.
And then we had, I believe we had 2 exoskeletons heads backstage also. I don't know why.
Why? Yeah.
I have no idea. I think one of the actors, when they come out, when they finally get signed off for training or something like that, they take a photo with it, to say welcome to the team or something like that. Because I would go backstage and I wasn't allowed to touch a lot of the backstage stuff, but I was always, this stuff, I'd always see a tech back there and I'd be like, oh cool, I want to hold it, and they'd let me hold it, for a few minutes, take a gander at it. I knew all the tech and stuff like that over time. So I would always play with the, 2B or 2B with the, the skull, stuff like that, It was always fun to hold one of the rifles and see what it looks like, A lot of our technical guys were prop designers and stuff like that, so they would make their own molds of it and stuff like that, I know one of our guys he ended up remaking a whole plasma rifle. I saw him make it. It was pretty damn good. Better than the one we had.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I have to close right now. I will want to finish with one other question that's related to the final show. During the curtain call, there was a T2 flag. It was being passed to each member, and I have been told that was the flag that was used in the boot camp they got from Captain Dale Dye when they were trained during the opening days of the show.
They did.
Is that flag, has it always been in the building?
That was the first time I've actually seen of it. I thought somebody actually made it. When I first saw it come on stage, because our show was so packed for the last show, and you were in there, and my girlfriend actually ended up getting her a ticket to go in there. I never saw the flag before, but we ended up and my bosses, we all had our phones out recording it, and I ended up just kind of losing my position, and I ended up taking photos of that. But that was the first time I've actually seen the flag. I believe it was made by him. So it was kind of the last hurrah for T2, and I don't know who has it now. I'm pretty sure it's probably been signed and probably in his office or in someone's office for a last hurrah. But we did take a photo of it. It was in our cast photo, and I do have a photo of that. Yeah. So it's actually in the cast photo. I don't know where it is now. Like I said, there's a lot of things that are missing in T2. I did ask some of the actors, and like, hey, did you take anything by any chance, or were you able to get, take a memento of your job? And a couple of them said, yeah, I was able to take my sunglasses, and I know one of them was able to take his gloves because they were custom-made gloves for him. And I believe so they have their glasses and gloves, the Terminators do. And I don't know if the Sarah Connor's got anything to keep for themselves, or, kind of a memento to say what they did. Yeah. I know a few of the guys had their glasses.
I hope they do.
They do. Yeah, because I asked one of the main cast actors the other day. I saw him the other day, and I said, "Do you have anything as a memento?" He said, "Yeah, I do. I have my gloves and my glasses." So, but I don't know where the flag is, unfortunately.
No, not. My question was not where it is right now, but has it always been in the building?
I don't believe so. I mean, it might have been, but I don't recall seeing it. I used to go up on our green room a lot, and I would see a lot of the old photos and stuff like that. So I've never really actually seen it up there. I'm guessing it was brought for last day, because I haven't seen it. I've never seen it before. We've had so many props and things go, I won't say missing, but things would appear and disappear rapidly over there. So there would be props I would never see before, and there would be props that So, and we'd have a lot of prop makers, like I said, backstage making a lot of props of things or remaking things, so or re-engineering things for the show. But yeah, I don't recall seeing it. That was my first time seeing it.
Okay.
So, but that was T2, our last day of it. I hope to do another one of these with you. It was a blast. I'm hoping you had enjoyed this and got some questions you wanted to ask.
Oh yeah, I sure had fun. I'd like to do it again sometime.
Oh, absolutely! I would love to do another one with you. Maybe we'll have we'll have Dakota on next time. We can discuss more.
Yeah, all in due time.
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna call it here and let you get some sleep because I know we're about 4 hours ahead over there, and I don't want to keep you up too late.
It's 11:15 right now.
Oh Lord, so. Yeah, I definitely want to make sure you get to bed. It's only 6:15 here in the East Coast.
But no worries.
But I'm glad we got to do this.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Alrighty, send everybody my best. Have an awesome one.
Yeah, you too. And thanks again.
No problem. Keep an open mind, guys. Have a good one.